We good? Yep. All right, we're going to open the meeting for the Board of Selectmen Monday, March 15th, 2021 at 5:30. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we don't have anything for public comment. Can we get a motion to call into executive session?
I'll make a motion to roll call into executive session.
Second.
Second, all right, we'll roll call. Ed?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Kathy?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now we can go into approving the warrants. Jason, you want to do the honors?
Absolutely. I make a motion to approve payroll warrant 2137 in the amount of $162,339.25.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
I make a motion to approve bill warrant 2137 in the amount of $370,696.92, which breaks down to the town, $120,472.36, water and sewer, $18,318.98, payroll withholding, $24,959.21, light bills, $87,921.04. Essex assessment, $89,542. Grants, $29,483.33.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yep.
Which can be addressed at a future time, but I saw a bill from Trinity for $7,000, and I was just kind of curious what we paid them for.
You pay Trinity a fee to be your contract paramedic level emergency services provider. So that must be their monthly bill.
Okay, because initially I thought that they were not, so where is that in our budget, our annual budget then?
I don't know.
Neither do I. Okay, so for future knowledge, I would be curious to see
Sure,
what.
we'll find out.
I've always thought it was like a free thing. So I was a little surprised by that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, quickly we'll go to appointment of Thomas Tombarello Jr. to the position of electrical inspector and effective March 10th, 2021 until June 30th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to appoint Thomas Tombrello Jr. to the position of electrical inspector effective 3/10/2021 until June 30th, 2021.
Can we get a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All set? No documentation, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't see any either. Where's Catherine?
We
Catherine!
should Get a letter or something.
I think it came from Sam.
I would imagine it's just
I thought I saw an email on it.
typically you see something.
The electrical inspector appointment, that came from Sam, right?
Yes.
I thought I saw an email on it. Is that all we had?
In the very back, there's the resignation letter, but not, I don't have an actual resignation letter, that's just an email from Sam. You guys want to print it?
Could you print it real quick? Do you have it?
Sure thing.
All right, we'll put that on hold then. All right, we'll come back to that so we can see it. I don't think there's an issue with it, but so we'll go over to discussion and possible vote. At the top of that is Town Government Study Committee. I did have a call with Joe and John Christopher about this document that is in your packet about an alternative approach to a town administrator that has come to light that seems to be a simplified approach that we could do almost immediately. So, John, can you hear me? You're on mute, John. Hold on,
He's still on mute.
still on mute. Let me see if I can help you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So do you have more background on this for the board? I know you and I talked the other night, last week, and I like the information, but do you have some more background on how you came about this option?
Sure. Thank you for having me tonight. Joe was here on March 1st and took some comments from the board. And then we had a meeting 10 days later with our committee. And there were some people that zoomed into it that offered some comments. I know Kevin zoomed in for a period of time and offered some comments. And what it's coming down to, our initial thoughts were to go forward with the bylaw and simultaneously try to revoke the finance director bylaw, which is actually special legislation which puts it in the class of a state statute. And revocation will have to be with the legislature for that to happen. So we felt it, and there appears to be some conflict in our proposed bylaw and the finance director's bylaw. For example, after hearing comments about financial controls, we put into our proposed bylaw that if in fact the Board of Selectmen seeks to appoint a treasurer or an assistant treasurer collector, that position will be separately appointed by the selectmen, and the town administrator will have no control over the actual appointment. Same goes for the town accountant. And Kevin pointed out that's great, but according to the financial director bylaw, only the finance director can appoint the assistant treasurer and the town accountant. So we felt it best for the time being to put the bylaw on hold, go forward with 2 warrant articles at town meeting. One would be to appoint a town administrator pursuant to Chapter 41, Section 23A, which is the progenitor for our bylaw. But you can also just appoint a person without a bylaw pursuant to that statute. Get that person in the job, and then you can either put into his contract or through a regulation or a amendment to the procedures manual, a job description of how he would operate. Once that person is in place and the finance director bylaw is repealed by the legislature, which may be up to, I don't know, 7 or 8 months from now. Kevin's a little more optimistic as how quickly it can happen. Once we get that repealed, then we can put in place the town administrator bylaw, and that creates a matrix under which he or she can operate. So that's basically the recommendation at this point, to get the person in place, and then to work, a temporary description of his duties. You can do it in his contract, and you can do it in the procedures manual, so you can create a regulation. Georgetown town administrator operates under the selectmen. They have a set of rules and regulations, and his duties are put out in their rules and regulations. I don't know if this board has rules and regulations per se, but that's how Georgetown does. So that's basically where we're at right now. I don't know if anyone has any questions, having read the memorandum.
Does anybody have any questions for John? Jason?
No.
Nothing? Kathy?
I guess so. We're talking about hiring a town administrator prior to town meeting then?
Now, you'll have to get authority from town meeting to actually hire the person.
Okay,
Chapter 41, Section 23A basically says by vote or bylaw, you can create the position.
oh, okay,
We proceeded to create the position by bylaw, but given the fact that we have a finance director bylaw that's really a state statute, we have to get that repealed.
okay,
And it's better just to get a person in place to start,
yeah.
And then you can build out the position once the finance director bylaw is repealed. Put our bylaw, so to speak, in place.
So we would have a warrant article, just a warrant article to vote on the position of a town administrator.
To authorize the Board of Selectmen to hire a town administrator.
Oh, okay, that's simple.
And then the next warrant article would be to repeal the finance director bylaw, petition the legislature to repeal the finance director bylaw.
Yeah, it's still a multi-step process, but this is a lot more streamlined and efficient, and gets us
Yeah.
in the
We
gets us in the
just felt to
zone.
move forward with a bylaw and the repeal of the finance director bylaw at the same time would just create more problems. So it's better to get the person on the job. And for example, you can take parts of our responsibilities and duties that are out in our proposed bylaw, and you can use that as a guide. Like I said, you can put it as a procedures manual, or you can make it part of his or her contract.
Okay. This
All
makes-
set?
Yep.
Phil, anything?
I was actually on the meeting, on the Zoom meeting with them, so a lot of this is familiar now. Do you think, does it require one of those special home rule kind of things to repeal 2-36A?
It would be like special acts legislation. Yeah, home rule.
So
Asking for a repeal.
with our great relationships with our senator and our representative, we might be able to speed that process up even more than 7-8 months, you think?
I would hope so. And I know to get the financial director bylaw in place, in 1997, town meeting voted in April, and the special legislation went into effect, I believe, in March of 1998. So it was about a 8 or 9 month process.
Right,
Nice.
that's long.
Anything else?
No, nope.
Ed, any questions?
Yes, John,
Yes.
when the committee was formed, and the chairman, Joe Demore, was before the selectmen, or actually it was before the committee was formed, he had mentioned that a non-binding referendum to go before the voters before this went to town meeting. What happened to that?
I think that was the last time that was ever mentioned.
It was, with the formation of the committee, that to get the feeling of the townspeople before it went to a town meeting vote. He said a non-binding referendum at a town election to gauge whether the people were in favor of it or not. And that was part of the formation of the committee.
Well, I know when you do special acts legislation, at least from what I've read, the legislature always requires, like when we put our finance director bylaw into special acts, the legislature had us do a referendum afterwards to see if the town wanted it, as I recall. I don't recall, quite frankly, any discussion about a non-binding referendum.
Well, if you play the selectmen's meeting back, when Joe first presented it,
I'm not doubting it.
he
I'm not
mentioned-
doubting
he
said
did
that. I'm just
mention
saying
that.
I have no recollection of it ever being discussed after that.
okay. No, that's it for now.
So, Kevin, what do we need to do with this? I'm assuming that if we vote to move forward with this process, that the warrants would then go to town meeting for town meeting to either approve or deny at this point?
Yep, the committee, kudos, compliments to the committee. They've done a great job crafting what the order of presentations are. So you'd have an article to repeal 23-6A, which conflicts with the TA bylaws, you know.
Right.
And then seek authorization to hire a town administrator. Now, the ironic thing is, Chapter 41 doesn't necessarily require a town meeting vote. You actually have the authority to do it. It's been done many times. But, hearkening to what John said, the board may be more comfortable, where this has been a topic at town meeting before, you may be more comfortable asking the people if they're quiescent in doing that.
Agreed.
That would require a second article. And then once the two pass, you don't have to wait to hire the town administrator until 2-36A is repealed. Because once town meeting votes it, it is going to be repealed. The legislature does not take an
Allow
action
the other
against the
votes,
will of the
right.
voters
Right.
when it's a local petition. So there's no reason to wait hiring your TA. And I think the committee has crafted a very clever construct where adoption of 4123A lets you hire a TA, but in the statute, there's no description of duties. So in order to describe the duties, the only thing you can do is have a selectman's policy, job description, contract, whatever you'd like. And what John's saying is take the work they've done, which describes the duties that would ultimately appear in a bylaw, and just make it the board's policy or job description, whatever your preference. And then assuming, as soon as the 2-36A is in fact repealed by the legislature, then the committee would come back with a warrant article at either a fall special or the spring next year, to now implement their TA bylaw, which gives the TA position a lot more permanency, if you will, because it's not dependent. Anything you create, you can uncreate at the next meeting.
Right.
The committee wants a more permanent TA creation, which would be the bylaw they'd come back with later. So this is really a very, very clever construct they've come up with, and it really frees your hands to do all the things that I think the committee and the board want to do, which is go to the TA form, get a treasurer separately, and do all those things. This now lets you do all that. So that's great. This is great.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask Kevin a question, please?
Sure.
Kevin, when you read the statute, it says by vote or bylaw. It doesn't say what type of vote. I guess it's, in your experience, it's just a vote of the selectmen as opposed to the town meeting.
Yeah, there's actually, it's fascinating, John, because there's plenty of councils, town councils, who will say vote means Board of Selectmen. Doesn't say you can't have a town meeting vote, certainly. But vote means basically anybody who wants to say, we're gonna hire a TA, and there's been plenty of TAs hired by boards of selectmen using 4123 as a construct. The more fascinating question is if you don't ask town meeting permission to hire the TA, you tacitly have to ask town meeting in the form of the budget, because of course you've gotta pay the town administrator. And so.
Town meeting is involved one way or
The
the other.
town meeting's gonna vote this one way or the other, whether you do a special article or you do just the budget. Either way, town meeting's gotta opine on it.
Right. So either way, they're the deciding authority
Yep,
on
they
everything.
sure enough are.
Right. So what does the board want to do?
We'll make a motion to put the article on to appoint a town administrator under chapter 4123A.
Right, is that a motion?
Yep.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? No? All in favor? All opposed?
And you need a second motion to repeal 2-36A. I think your motion was just for the TA,
Right.
correct?
Yes, I make a motion to put a warrant article on to repeal finance bylaw 22-36A.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All right. That was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. Good job, John, because you explained it a lot better than
I
me.
would just like to recognize Ruth Rivad, who was gracious enough to zoom in here, even though we didn't have any questions. So I just want to she was here to
I
answer.
saw her on there. I was gonna talk to her
Okay.
if we needed to, but I didn't want to have to put her on the spot.
Okay, well, she can be happy tonight then.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate all the hard
Hey,
work.
thank you.
Great work, by the way. All of you. Great work.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the appointment of Thomas. Now, I do remember the email about putting this on the agenda. I guess he is an alternate electoral inspector anyways. So we want to make him,
There was a motion and a second, I believe, already.
there was. So is there any further discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. There's a boatload of paper up here.
Yeah.
All right, so we can
Small
pass
forest.
that up. I don't know. Something else that might take quite a while. I do want to get to Matt and the summer recreation program. Matt, can you hear us? Can you unmute yourself?
Yep. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Matt.
Well, yeah.
So I know this has been coming in as far as questions as to what's going to happen this summer with the summer rec program. That's a really good question. I'm assuming, Matt, that you're following the information from the state and the guidelines about what's going to be maybe permissible and maybe what some other programs are seeing. So do you have any information on us for us on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The state still has not officially come out with their guidelines for summer camps. However, as an educator, I'm, kept up to date and keep up to date with everything that's related to schools right now. I'm definitely in favor of having a program this summer. I think we'll be in a good spot as a state, as many school districts are returning to in-person learning. So I think by June we'll be in even better state for our summer program. So as far as specific COVID-19 procedures and protocols, I think it is still kind of too early to go over those. But what I would like to propose is that we do move forward with a summer program this summer. Once the state does officially come out with their protocols for summer camps, and as we get closer to it, I'd like to come back in front of you guys and review everything step by step. Really just go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, just to make sure that we're able to follow the procedures and the protocols, and that obviously you guys are comfortable with what we have in place for this summer. I think for right now, if we move forward with the planning, I would like to start with just town of Groveland for registrations before we open it up to other communities. If we are going to open it up to other communities, that's a question I do have for you guys this evening. But at the very least, I would like to begin planning and at least open it up to Groveland residents.
So, are you looking for us to give you, I guess, preliminary authority to start engaging with families and gaining interest and putting a plan together to then ultimately decide whether or not that plan is going to go forward, say in 2 months? Is that a good synopsis of that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this summer we'll be in a much better place than last summer. So, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm making the assumption that it's not a matter necessarily this year of us running it. It's just making sure, again, that we're operating as safe, as possible. So whether or not, like I said, that means that we're limiting the number of attendees this year to just Groveland residents, or first open it up to just Groveland residents, see where our numbers land. Mm-hmm. But definitely, I've been getting quite a few emails from parents wondering if it's going to happen as people start begin to plan for their summer, rec programming for their children. So I think at this point, where we are in March, we kind of need to make a decision on whether or not we're going to move ahead with planning. If I can then, get the information out there, open up registration online like we've done in the past, and kind of go from there.
So are you thinking
you guys
that
abreast of our registration numbers, and then like I said, as we get closer, once we have official answers, Once we get into May and early June, then, I will make a presentation to you guys to go over, what our plans are, based on the information that we're getting from the state.
Right. So are you anticipating maybe opening up to, say, Groveland residents first, but not taking payment until at that time you are sure whether or not you're going forward? Is that kind of the plan?
Well, my approach was to start taking deposits.
Uh-huh.
So that will hold their child spot with the program.
Right.
But hold off on some of the payments until later in the spring. Usually we collect payments at the beginning of every month. So this year I was thinking possibly doing a third of the tuition for a deposit, and then waiting until May and June to collect the remaining payments.
Okay. I think, and I'll let the other board members ask you questions in a minute. Are you having trouble hearing me?
No, I'm just on my phone, so it's
All right.
a little quiet, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think what you're going to run into is a space issue, given that the gymnasiums are now a storage room, and whether or not those are going to be cleared out, and then what the guidelines look like, if it's going to be 3 feet or 6 feet, and then the number of kids that are going to be part of the program. So I think, obviously, you're very good at this, so I think you've already considered those type of scenarios, but I just wanted to put that out there. Does anybody have any questions for Matt? Ed?
No.
Bill?
Questions? No, no questions.
Comments?
Comments? I kind of agree with him. I think by the time June rolls around and summer camp opens, I think we'll be in a much, much better place than we are right now even. So I'm optimistic.
Kathy?
No questions. I mean, as far as I know, the other summer camps are already picking up people, so, Cedardale, I know, and Haverhill is advertising already.
Now, West Newbury did already announce they're not having a summer program. So I don't know how that may influence or impact Matt's numbers if he opens it up beyond Groveland residents.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Bill said that West Newbury is not having a summer program.
Okay.
Is that correct? Do you know that?
I was unaware, but West Newbury also is historically a lot smaller than ours.
Okay. Well, just if you start opening it up to other towns, that might influx the number of registrants that you'd have to deal with, just so that's a back burner, so you understand that.
Yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, like I said, that's why if we want to start with just Groveland residents, for the first month or so, see where we're at, and then make the determination at that time if we're, satisfied with the numbers that we have and we're comfortable with those numbers, we'll, stick to those numbers, or if we feel, we can open it up to, maybe a lottery type system or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Because generally in the past, our numbers have been, easily double those in West Newbury and or Merrimack.
Got it. Jason, any questions?
Yeah, you say they're normally double. What type of numbers are you looking at in terms of attendance?
We're generally always in the 200 plus range for attendance each year.
And how many of those are together at one particular point in time? All 200?
No. Generally, we average about 150 to 170, 160 is our median per week.
Per week, and is that divided up among how many days? Or is that all at once?
That's every day for that specific week.
Okay,
So
so
we
you'll have up
have
to 160 people.
generally, on any given day, we have at minimum 150 kids present.
Okay, that's the only question I have.
So I guess we need to make a motion to allow you to at least proceed in theory with your planning, and then have a follow-up date to come back in front of us with a final go, no-go? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion?
Is the motion to allow people to sign up, preliminary sign-ups? Is he looking for people
And
to sign?
just for
He's-
Groveland residents, correct?
He's looking for a motion to move forward with his planning for a summer rec program, whatever that looks like, just for Groveland, and then see where he lands at that time.
So you want to open up the sign-up? You want to start taking names and deposits?
Yes, for Groveland residents only.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to open up the, is it called Bagnell or Groveland? Is it Groveland Summer Program?
Yes.
Okay, make a motion to open up the Groveland Summer Program for sign-up for Groveland residents only.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Bill?
Yeah, what's the latest date that you can hold up before making the decision? I mean, there's got to be a drop-dead date here, right?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, what's your drop-dead date here for making a decision one way or the other? You have, there's a date, right? Your deadline?
Yeah, I mean, we would need to make a final decision in early May, so that gives families enough time to find alternative care. If we were not going to move forward for some reason, or if there were going to be, great restrictions where let's say their child may not be able to attend all 35 days of our program because of numbers.
Looking ahead at the calendar, do we have a meeting on May 10th? I believe, if I look at the calendar and I keep jumping.
Give me 1 second and I'll tell you.
Yes.
Can we get that decision by that meeting, May 10th?
Yeah,
The
I
next
think
meeting
that's a
would be too
perfect
late.
date.
That would work for you, Matt?
Yep. And at that time, obviously, we'll have much greater detail too, as far as the procedures and protocols that we will need to follow too. So that probably is a perfect time frame.
So
Okay.
Kathy, do you want to amend your motion?
I was going to suggest, can I make a friendly amendment to Kathy's that we
Make a
have
friendly amendment.
Matt will make a final determination to this board on the May 10th Board of Selectmen meeting?
You have to accept it, I think.
Accepted.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
All right, Matt, keep us up to date.
All right, will do. Thanks so much,
Thank you.
everybody. Really appreciate it.
All right, let's try to cross a few more things off of here. Let's go to field use permit for Washington Park. What's GL? Groveland League? Is that what it is?
It should be GBL.
GBL, that's what I thought.
Groveland Baseball League, but that's
All right.
okay, we're close.
So, Bill, do you have background on that for us?
Basically, Washington Park is almost used exclusively by GBL, Groveland Baseball League, for their Little League baseball program. They have 3 diamonds there, T-ball, minor league and major league, where they run their clinics and have games. What they're looking for is permission to begin their registration process. I know, I know Mark was on the Zoom. I'm not sure if he is anymore.
Mark, I am here.
Oh, great. I think they were, I believe they were going to use the same, or open up with the same protocols that they used to play last season.
Correct. If you remember, late last spring, prior to last summer, per us operating, last year we presented you with a list of COVID guidelines enhancing above and beyond what the state had recommended for athletics and outdoor athletics. We are going to be amending those again. We are not going to be utilizing the dugouts for this season as well to maintain social distancing. It worked very well. We had over 100 players in our league last year, and I'm happy to report that we had 0 cases or issues around COVID within Groveland baseball and the 7 towns that we operated in.
So basically, you're looking just to permit the use of the Washington Park.
Correct.
And typically, I know when I was on the board, it ran from April 1st to September 30th. I know sometimes you have
Correct.
you host summer
Correct.
programs.
We're going to have our spring season followed by summer baseball, and we're planning on possible clinics for the fall this year.
And I know the insurance typically runs from April 1st to March 30th, or is it May 1st to April 30th?
It actually changed this year, Bill. We reinsured. We waited due to COVID last year before we re-upped the insurance. I believe the insurance expires on July 1st, so we're already in the process of having that renewed. So in my permit, I included the insurance certificate up through this July, and we'll provide the town and the board with the updated certificate when the renewal is complete for that.
Terrific.
All right, we need to make a motion.
Does anybody else have any?
Well, we can do that under
Yeah.
additional discussion.
Well, I make a motion that we permit the Washington Park to GBO for GBO use per their requested dates and times.
There a
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Jason?
No.
Kathy, anything else?
Just to the Groveland Baseball League, I thought you did an exceptional job last year with the protocols. You know, I walked by several times, and it looked like everybody was having a lot of fun in a very safe way. So I think you did a fantastic job.
Hey, great. Thank you very much. Yeah, and we do to make sure not only that these protocols are followed just within Groveland baseball, but as a group, I'm also part of the ITBL, which is the board that makes up all the towns of our league. And we make sure that these protocols are followed across any town that participates in this program. So thank you.
Ed, anything?
No.
All right. Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And next up, we have issue a one-day permit to PBR at the Pines for 13-year-old tryouts.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's on the Zoom. That's PBR's Pentucket Babe Ruth League. They're looking to, for a one-day use permit at the Pines to have their 13-year-old evaluations. They're still operating on a on insurance certificate that I believe is still on file. That should run through, if my memory serves me well, through the 30th of April of this year. They're typically for 1 year, and they run from April 1 to, or May 1 till April 30th.
Okay, so can we get a motion, and then we'll get into discussion if there's any?
Motion to allow Pentucket Babe Ruth one-day permit to use the Pines for their 13-year-old evaluations.
Second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion, Jason?
Nope.
Kathy?
No,
Ed?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the day?
It is August 3rd. August, yeah. I'm way ahead of myself.
May 3rd?
April 3rd.
April.
that'd be
It's a
really late.
Saturday at 2 p.m.
Anything else, Ed?
No.
All right. Make sure we add that April 3rd at 2 p.m. All those in favor?
Yes.
All right, that was painless. Let's jump over to Groveland Housing River Pines roof replacement. Kevin, for some background on that, right?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is a grant-funded project at the Housing Authority, and this is a federal code required certification that it does not require full environmental review. Because of some peculiarities with respect to the federal code, even though it's a quasi-state owned facility, the town actually is the entity that has to sign off, certify that it doesn't meet federal code requiring a environmental review. Actually, it's Mike who signs off, so the other
Sign
four
off?
of you are all set in case this blows up in any way. Just kidding.
What happens if I get hit by a bus? Who's next? Bill?
Well, then it's Bill.
All right, great.
So if you, I won't take you through every piece of it, but there's a bunch of checkoffs here that have been done by the executive director of the Housing Authority. And you can read them in terms of, there's no wild and scenic rivers, et cetera there. And so all the board has to do is authorize the chair to sign the environmental review for activity project that is categorically excluded, subject to section 58.5 pursuant to 24 CFR 58.35 subparagraph A. And then Mike can sign it, and that will get picked up by the Housing Authority. The grant will be given, and the roof project, replacing the roofs over there, can go forward.
Anybody have any questions? Kathy?
No.
No?
I think
Jason?
they've got,
No.
the correct form is filled out. I think we're good.
I think
It
it's
looks
good.
right. It sounds
Jason?
right.
Ed, any questions on that?
No, we gotta be done.
Any questions?
No, we need a motion.
I think so. I think you got a motion to accept that and grant me signing privileges.
So motion to accept,
The motion would be to approve the environmental review. Just read all that verbiage on the top of the page.
Categorically excluded.
It's about 15 pages into your packet.
yeah, motion to approve environmental review for activity project is categorically excluded, subject to section 58.5 pursuant to 24 CFR 58.35A. Project name is the River Pines Roofing Project.
Second.
Motion and a second. You gotta love government.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, for the
Yep.
folks at home, this is a $175,000 grant program, which was solicited and received by the Housing Authority to replace all the roofs at the senior housing. So this is quite an exceptional accomplishment they've made here.
Fantastic. All those in favor? I'll abstain.
motion to allow Chairman Wood to sign on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
No.
I'll abstain. All right. Let's move on to, I'm gonna say the budget for another few minutes. The CPC budget and requests.
Mike is not on.
So we're not going to that, all right? Let's jump down to town meeting planning discussion. Vote to close the warrant.
Make a motion to close the warrant.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
All right,
I like when things move along. All right, and then we have vote to move the annual town meeting to outside location in May.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
members of the board, there's been a lot of discussion between the town clerk, myself, and town council to get the laws clear here, because there's two different laws involved. Kathy pointed one out, chapter 39, sections 9 and 10, which is a law that's been around a while that gives you flexibility with respect to what you can do. You don't have quite the flexibility the law seems to give you, but you do have a lot. Then there was a special regulation issued by the governor last year during the COVID period, pursuant to special legislation that gave further authority, that really gave you total carte blanche. Now, that expires March 31st, but provided you act prior to March 31st, it doesn't matter whether you're acting under that law or you're acting under chapter 39. You get the authority to move the town meeting.
Okay.
So, you were thinking about the 22nd, which is a Saturday, when you were considering outdoors in order to be able to use the school facility and not conflict with school. Having it outdoors, as has already been discussed, is a significant production because there's so many issues involved in that. Just today, it was announced that the new social distancing guidelines that are going to be issued by the CDC sometime soon are going to drop from 6 to 3 feet. And in fact, school is, in-class
have
school is
that.
starting with a 3-foot distancing soon. Certainly by May, you'll have 3 foot if we don't have significant other relief from regulations because of the success of the vaccination program. So, in talking to Beth, myself today, and kind of putting all this together, what we would recommend to you is that you go with the 24th or the 17th, your call. They're both Monday nights. The concern is springtime, May, Saturday, if it's good weather, we're gonna have a heck of a time getting the quorum. Because everybody's gonna wanna be outside, COVID fever. And there are a lot of issues involved with trying to do it outside. So if it pleases the board to keep it on the traditional Monday night, the 17th or the 24th are within some other planning guidelines having to do with the date from which we're still bound by the bylaw in terms of the number of days prior to the meeting we have to post. It's really complex because it involves the election, the town meeting, the potential for a special posting requirement, so it gets pretty complex. But if you were to go to the 17th or the 22nd, you would be within all of those conflicting guidelines and regulations. If you want to do a different date, just tell me what that is and we'll see if we can make that work. But if your goal is to get into May to buy us more time, and you're not set on outside, then the 17th or the 22nd, the
24th.
traditional Monday night would work perfectly fine.
I do like the Monday nights. I think moving it outside is gonna add not only logistics, but cost for more equipment, but that's my opinion. Ed, any comments on the town meeting date or location?
No, in May, you don't know what you're gonna get for weather. The 17th or the 24th, either one. Push it out as far as you probably could.
Bill?
Either one works fine with me. Logistically, cost-wise, yeah, I think trying to do it outside is just going to be very difficult. And as Kevin said, if it's a nice day on that Saturday, I'm going to be in the garden raking leaves. I'm going to be trying to, catch up on winter if I can, as I imagine a lot of people are going to be. So you're right. I think it's going to present a tremendous amount of difficulty trying to get a quorum there on a Saturday if it's a beautiful day.
As an inveterate town meeting goer, Saturdays are tough to begin with, but a Saturday in the spring following COVID breaking, wow. Beth, I just noticed, Mr. Chairman, member of the board is on, in case you have questions. But I think there was consensus that Saturday would be very tough to get quorum.
We'd have to close down the compost. You couldn't have those people.
Right.
There'll be an inconvenience as well to the folks that, trying to get stuff done.
Kathy?
I guess I'm all right with moving it inside. I mean, I'm looking at this with the school situation. We had both cohorts in the classroom 3 feet apart today. It went pretty smoothly. We're all moving towards that new normal, and I think our town meeting being in May, people will be ready for that inside, And people that come with a group that they're comfortable with can, of course, move the chairs closer, to accommodate space.
There's a chat.
Thank you, Mike.
That's it. We already did that.
So that's for, yeah. You all set with that one?
All right, yeah. So,
So, I mean, the 17th or the 24th, I'm West Newbury's meeting on the 22nd. We can either meet before or after them. That's our choice.
Inside or outside?
Inside is fine. I think the big deal last year was the number of fans running, and I don't foresee that we're gonna do that again. I think with the windows open and the correct spacing, we've achieved the CDC guidelines by May. We should be okay.
We should also be able to use the gymnasium as, if it gets that much, like we did a couple of years ago when we had the vote for the school.
Correct, yeah, we did that, and I think like people that are not from the town, the people that are visiting, that would be a good use of that space, so that we keep the open space for our residents, for our voters.
We don't get a lot of people that.
I know, we don't get a lot, but, we do set aside space, and if you're measuring 3-foot spacing, I would just go with that.
Jason?
Yeah, I think inside shouldn't be an issue, because if I remember correctly, last year we had 80 people, and we were inside with all the guidelines, which are more restrictive than they are going to be this time. So,
We just couldn't hear each other because the fans were going at.
yeah, so
So we're
I
not
don't
gonna
think
have,
it's gonna
we're
be an
not gonna
issue.
have all
And
that, I would hope. We're not gonna have all this.
Plus, we have a lot more new equipment coming in, so.
And new equipment.
Yeah, I think just pushing it out to the 24th would be great, and hopefully a lot more people will be vaccinated by then and feel comfortable and come out to the town meeting and vote.
All right, someone want to make a motion then?
Which date? Flip a
Part of your
coin.
motion.
I'll make a motion to move the town meeting to the 24th of May, inside Bagnell.
You are required by law to set the time and the location as well in the motion. I know it's obvious,
Said
but
location.
needs to be in there.
Didn't say the time. What time does it start?
7, I think, typically, right?
Special town meeting at 7 usually, yeah.
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 An annual at 7.
Whatever you want, Jason. You can make it 7:15 if you
Or
want.
6:30.
You're making the motion, man.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to
Nice
move
and cool
town
then.
meeting to Monday, the May 24th at 7 PM inside the Bagnell School.
Second.
All right, I think we have plenty of discussion. All in favor?
All right.
All right. Let's go back to CPC budget and requests now that Mike's here. Hey, Mike.
Hi, good evening. Mike Dempsey for the Community Preservation Committee, and I'm here to tell you about this year's projects and answer any questions that you might have. So I think I forwarded to Catherine the 7 warrant articles for the projects. So I'll go through that in order of
Just a
the,
point of order. Mr. Chairman, can we get a copy of that so that we
have
can
that.
follow along with it?
Get it for you right now.
You don't have that.
Give us a couple of minutes, Mike,
okay, yeah, I'll give
Yeah.
some,
Keep going,
General
Mike. We'll
terms.
catch up.
so just in general, I think I had emailed everybody about how well Groveland did with the state match this year. We were 65.3% matched, 22nd highest in the state. And we received $224,230. Last year, we collected $343,655. So our total fiscal year 21 contribution between revenue we collected and the state match was $567,885. And so we actually did very well this year. We've done really well for the last couple of years, which is pretty good considering that there's more cities and towns joining the community preservation group. And the state legislatures work very hard to add additional revenue sources to the state match. So I think that's helped quite a bit. So, the other interesting number is, since we have had, CPA going back to, 2006, we have received over $2.7 million in state match money. So that's all money that some other city and town would have got if we didn't have CPA. And the other reason why, we get a good amount is because we have our CPA tax is 3%. So, because it's 3% and because we're a small town and a couple of other issues, that's why we end up with the 22nd highest ranking of CPA communities in our match. So I think that's pretty good and worth noting. The other numbers I want to give you is that right now our total balance of non-committed funds without the 2021 numbers, we have $2,082,000 in our CPA account. So,
That's for multiple accounts, right?
yeah, that includes open space, historic preservation.
Do you have those numbers broken down?
Yeah,
The account numbers?
Thank you.
Can you give me those? Are they in that?
they should be.
Yeah, they're in
that.
they're in the sheets that are coming around. Thanks.
For $2,082,000. So you said $2,082,000.
Did you see that in there?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the general terms of where CPA stands before we tackle any new projects this year. So the first project request for is New Mill Pond Phase 1. This has to do, and this proposal is from your board. This is to clean up and fix up the area in and around 44 Washington Street. I think that's the address. Work very closely with Kathy on this, and Jason and Kathy and I went out to look at it way back last year and came up with the idea. This is where it abuts, this is town-owned land already, but it abuts the old pond that used to be there known as New Mill Pond, where the town used to have swimming and skating and fishing back in the 70s and before that. Got closed down because of Valley Screw and that whole incident there. The pond is still there, it's just the water flows through it and it leaves. And the pond is on church property. So this project doesn't really involve the pond. What it's called a Phase 1 because what we're going to do is clean it up, do some landscaping there and some survey work so that we know exactly where the property is and plan for the future when perhaps we can open up the pond again. The request for that project is $21,000. So I'll entertain any questions you might have about that project.
What needs to be cleaned up down there? I mean, I've been by there a bunch of times, and I know there's some dirt pathways, there's some old Jersey barriers or something, blocks
Yep.
that were down there.
Yep.
And not too long ago, there was some backhoes lifting and moving some stuff in there.
Yeah.
So what else needs to be cleared behind there?
There's some old fenced-in area that needs to be ripped out. There's some material inside the fenced-in area that needs to be removed. The highway department's done quite a good job of cleaning out their stuff, removing some of the sand and rocks that they had there, but there's a few more barriers that need to be removed. Recently, the state had a contractor come in and remove the old connection to the monitoring station that was back there.
Mhm.
So that's all gone. And so mostly the cleanup is right around the building. And then to make it look better, the idea is to fix that roadway that goes in there, do some landscaping around the building, plant some plants, and the survey.
Mike, just perhaps some grading also along there.
Yes, yep.
But you said the actual pond is owned on church land.
Yeah, so this doesn't involve the pond at all.
Now, what about the, I know you were part of the discussions pre-COVID with Valley Screw and everything that entails. Does that still have any impact on that area?
Well, yes, that, not the immediate 44 Washington Street, but there's another 6-acre parcel that the town owns. That land cannot be, we can't dig into it. We can't build anything there right now. It's still under at least probably another 5-year restriction under DEP. But, you know, again, anything on the surface we can do.
Anybody have any questions for Mike on that? On the phase 1 for New Mill Pond? Bill?
Yeah, so the $21,000 you're gonna use to clean it up and do land surveys, are you gonna do any kind of soil testing as well?
No.
If I could, there are test well sites still there. They just recently redid all that. When they came in and removed some of that housing, they put in those tall, well, they look like poles to me, but I believe those are test wells that they're going to continue to monitor.
The water,
Right.
how about the earth?
The earth itself?
The earth itself, yeah.
Yeah. Well, if the water's clean, you would assume, I think, that the earth would be because of the project, but I
assume-
suppose some of the money could be used towards sampling some of the soil. It doesn't cost that much.
I assume nothing in these day and age.
Okay,
And
no, I mean, I think that's a good concern. I mean, we could definitely do that.
It'd be nice to know if it was contaminated before we
Sure.
put in a lot of time, energy, money,
Yep.
so we know what we're getting in bed with.
Right.
I think that's a good idea.
So does that,
So that would fit
any of
in.
this 21,000 include any of that?
Yeah, well, there's a
Could be, yeah.
contingency in there, so we could certainly do some testing.
I think it would behoove us to do that, just to protect ourselves and the citizens. And that's the only question and comment I had.
Ed, do you have anything?
No, it's a really an eyesore up there, and it needs to be cleaned up and straightened out. And I think it's a worthwhile project.
Kathy? Anything
You know
else?
how I feel about Mill Pond.
I know how you feel. You don't need to add any more. Jason?
Yeah, I think, I'm with Ed on that. I think it's a worthwhile project because from the street that, it really looks atrocious and it would be nice to get it cleaned up.
Okay. Number 2, Mike?
Okay, number 2 is the buy-down program, and this is using $408,000 of our CPA affordable community housing set aside. And I'm going to let Rebecca talk on this one because she was the one who worked on this. It's a joint effort with Groven Housing to help with affordable and community housing in Groveland, which we've been trying to do going back for 15 years.
So essentially, at the last community preservation meeting, the CPC had asked me to take a look at creating a program to establish affordable housing that was in characteristics with what Groveland wanted to see. And it wasn't necessarily a large apartment complex or anything of that nature, but something smaller scale that could be something as simple as infill housing. And so what I did is I took a look at other communities and we came up with a buy-down program. So we worked with a local realtor to get a better sense of what the market price was for homes in Groveland. And then we took that and we put in how much you would have to pay for the down payment, insurance, what you'd have to pay for your quarterly tax bill, all of that other types of calculations. And so based upon what we found, we would be able to spend up to $200,000 to help a income eligible family, which is 80% AMI, use those monies to buy down a home. And what that would mean is essentially that that home would be restricted in its affordability. So that $200,000 will make sure that that house, that deed rider moving forward, will be an affordable unit. And then, so we could only help 2 families because the market prices of homes are just so high in Groveland. It was, some of them, 4 bedrooms, it was just, I don't even know if we could find anybody that would be income eligible and still have that help. So based upon what we established, it would be $200,000 up to make it affordable, based upon 80% AMI, and then $8,000 would go to the Groveland Housing Authority to actually manage the program. So they would do the income eligibility, they would do the application, they would do the lottery, and then they would help us work with DHCD to make sure that those units get counted on the subsidized housing inventory.
Anybody have any questions for Rebecca?
Just a clarification, so you're talking about doing a lottery of a pool of people who already live in Groveland?
It would not be restricted to Groveland residents. So it becomes very difficult when you restrict it because a lot of the homeowners that you already have here aren't really looking for first-time homes. They already own homes. So and those who are looking to downsize aren't necessarily looking to utilize the program either. So it doesn't essentially open up the program and make it equitable for all.
So are you proposing then this would be something that be advertised that somebody who is a first-time home owner or wants to be buyer in this town, who meets the income requirements, this program would assist them towards buying the home with giving them $200,000 towards the home? Is that what we're saying?
Yep, so essentially, in order to qualify under the subsidized housing inventory, you have to have an affirmative marketing plan, so you must in fact market it to those individuals to let them know that there is a program out there that can in fact assist them. And it's not just first-time home buyers, but there's a list of criteria that I listed out that, 65 and older, there's other types of eligibility that you can meet and still apply for this program. And so essentially, the Groveland Housing Authority would do an affirmative fair marketing plan and a lottery to say, hey, we have this program available if you qualify based upon this and you meet these income eligibility requirements, and then they're able to apply and start the process with the Groveland Housing Authority.
How do they find the house?
So essentially, you first buy the home, and then you can take advantage of the program. So just like if you were trying to get financing, like you're looking for homes, you're already out there, you're saying, okay, I want to buy a home in Groveland. All right, I'm taking a look at all of the want ads, and you'd see a program such as the one we're offering. So you'd reach out and say, I'm looking for a home in Groveland. They'd say, okay, if you meet this, you'd meet this, okay. Find a home, then come back to us, and then we can start the process.
And do we have a pool of homes that meet the criteria for this program, or are we saying they can go look at any home they want?
Any home you want. You just have to meet the program that I set aside has certain, a max sale price.
Okay,
So there's a max sale price for a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, and a 4-bedroom based upon the market housing rate, and then $200,000 of whatever that max housing, whatever that price is, would be deducted, and that's what they would be buying the house at. So if you have a house that's like, $854,000, then you subtract $200,000 from that, does that meet their income eligibility for an 80% AMI for that particular family?
Okay, and then that becomes part of the deed on that house?
Yes, there will be a deed
Similar
writer.
to the condominiums here, they're deeded and restricted,
Exactly.
and the Groveland Housing Authority is gonna manage that deed.
Yep, and for the management fee of the additional 8,000, which is tacked on to the request to CPC, they would take that and manage the program.
All set?
And I believe Joe Hart, the executive director, might be online if you want to ask him specific questions for the Groveland Housing Authority.
Are you all set?
I'm sorry, what was that, Kathy?
Yeah, hi, Joe. Are there other towns already doing this right now nearby us?
I'm not sure, but this is a state program that's been around for at least 20 years.
Okay.
I'm not sure what neighbors of ours are doing it, but there are some situations where this is a very good fit. I think Rebecca's done all the research on that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Jason?
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal. I think this is more what affordable housing is supposed to look like. And I'm all for this, 100%. I think it's phenomenal, and I really think Rebecca did a phenomenal job putting it all together.
Rebecca always does a phenomenal job. She has a high bar, which can be good and bad, right?
Yeah.
All right, so Mike, can I ask a favor of you?
Yes.
On an interest of time, can you go through the next 4 items relatively at a high level for us?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so the next one is the Crosstown Recreational Trail. This is requesting $18,000 to create a new recreational trail on properties that we already own, except for one small piece of it, and it's going to extend from Main Street up to the Crane Pond Reservation through some trail easements and through town forest and some other properties that are conservation land way up to Center Street. The money is going to be used for the trail easement and then building the trail, things like signage, markers, and kiosks. The next one is the community trail supplement. We're really excited about the fact that they're going to be advertising for construction, starting advertising in July, with potentially the community trail being built in September of this year. So, as you know, we had requested money at last year's annual town meeting and kind of got mixed up, but we've done a good job. Rebecca's whittled it down to absolutely what we need. So this is a request for $97,000. It's going to cover quite a few small details at the end that always come up. Hopefully, we won't end up using all $97,000, but the contingencies are in there just in case. The next one is a VZ Park ADA compliance Phase 2. A couple of years ago, we received money to do some work at VZ Park to make it handicap accessible. Quite a bit of that work, the small projects have all been done. The last thing to do is a bathroom. So this project is going to cover the completion of that accessible bathroom and then work on an outdoor ramp to a recreation area at the back of VZ Park. So that's asking for $31,000. There's already $15,000 left over for the bathroom, so the total project cost is $46,000, but we'll put the 15 towards it, so that's why 31,000 is being requested. And number 6 is cemetery fencing project. This is requesting $24,000 for fencing along the border between Riverview Cemetery and the new development called Billis Way down the street. And it's going to help preserve the historic nature of the cemetery, keep it from encroachment.
Mike, what kind of fence is that gonna be?
There's different amounts. There are different kinds of fence. Some of it is plastic fencing, other it is more historic iron fencing.
Wrought iron?
Further down, closer to the road.
So in the back, it's gonna be vinyl, and up front, we can
Yes.
see it's gonna be wrought iron, black wrought iron, is that what it
Yeah.
is? Okay.
Right, because there's a house way in the back that's very close to the cemetery, and that's where the plastic fencing is gonna go to shield the cemetery from their backyard,
Got it.
basically.
Okay, thank you.
And number 7 is the Phase 2 of Johnson's Pond weed removal. This is another one that we have some money left over, so we're requesting $28,000. There's a total of $41,000 available from a state grant that we got this year, and also some unspent CPA monies from the last time we did this. So we're going to clean out more of the pond. We were successful in cleaning out a channel from the new boat launch out to the middle of the pond. We're going to be working on the remaining portion of that pond to get the majority of the undesirable weeds out of there. And that will take place in September of this year. So that's it on the project.
Any questions on any of those? Those are pretty clear. Yeah.
Mike, number 5.
Yes.
What's your feelings on, at some point, an outdoor facility? Judging from the amount of people that are up there on the weekends this winter, sledding,
Yes.
and I would say on a Saturday or a Sunday, there was probably close to 100 people on the hill. And I just wonder about an outdoor facility, or else, a separate building.
Like a restroom or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's potentially, we just have to be careful because the restriction from the state says we're not supposed to build anything new. So we'd have to make something kind of like a temporary structure, probably down on Washington Street or something.
And the same thing with maybe at some point, looking at paving or doing something along the Washington Street side, because it gets pretty congested down there.
Yes.
And people just don't want to walk from the large parking lot up to the hill.
Right. I have a request into Senator Tarr's office and Representative Mira's office for some end-of-the-year money that we're supposed to hear about probably in the next month or so. And that was part of it, the Washington Street, to clear out all that junky brushes in there and plant some new trees, put up a wooden fence along there so that we could actually have angle parking along Washington Street, or at least pull in off the street.
And perhaps something, maybe some barrels along some of the paths to get these people to, when they pick up their dog crap,
Yes.
so they stop hanging it in a tree. I mean, is that ridiculous or what? And I'm
Yes.
sure you've seen quite a bit of that up there.
Yes.
All set?
All set.
Gonna end on that? Okay. Anybody else? All right, Mike, thank you. So I missed a couple items under field use, apparently. Use for the soccer league, the girls softball league, and something about Bill has to work with Bill Caruso on scheduling for baseball.
Mr. Chairman, just wanted to note, you had voted to include one of the CPA's articles,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't vote on the other 6. So just for consistency, if sort of either, maybe you wanna vote them all, I don't know.
I'll
I
make a
mean, they're in
motion that
anyways,
we,
the CPC enjoys the right statutorily to have its articles automatically on the warrant.
Yeah.
The board's only function really is to decide whether to recommend it or not.
Right.
So, if it pleases the board, if you're satisfied with them, you wanna take a vote of support, then that's info I can get into the warrant.
I'll make a motion, we approve items 2 through 7 of CPA project for the upcoming town meeting.
I'll second that.
Wait for Kathy for a second. Kathy, we're voting to approve the warrants for town meeting that Mike just went over.
Yes.
Any
Okay.
further discussion? Bill, you all set? You want to say something? All right. All those in favor? All set? Kevin, we good? Great. Back to, real quickly, field use. Catherine, what was the background? The soccer league wanted the approval to use Shanahan
Shanahan?
Field?
Yep, girls softball wants to know if they can have field use.
The Pines?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And also, Mr. Caruso was on, he wants, to use the Pines as well for baseball. So, I know he's gonna have to coordinate with Pentucket
Yeah.
baseball. But they were all really just looking for, is the board going to allow field use this year?
Is the board gonna allow field use this year?
I'm hopefully optimistic we will.
Okay, well, someone make a motion and let's, either approve it or deny it.
What are we approving and denying?
The
Shanahan
soccer
Field?
The soccer for Shanahan Field for soccer, the softball field for girls softball, and then baseball field for Bill Caruso.
Yes.
I'd hold off on that last one, because
Okay.
that, I think, is not a high school or a town-affiliated team. So before that, in my opinion, before that's permitted, we need to figure out what is available.
That's where the
for-
scheduling comes in.
That's where the scheduling comes in, and that the high school, I have a loose range of time that the high school wants it, but no firm committed dates yet. Other than I know they have to practice there all the time because there's no other field at the high school right now.
Okay.
But when their games are, Mr. Thornton hasn't yet given me a schedule because he hasn't really had a definitive hard schedule given to him yet.
So do we want to approve the third item based on schedule
And availability.
and availability? I mean, that's your call. You're gonna run that, so. All right, let's go through soccer.
I make a motion that we approve the permit for, is it Groveland Youth Soccer?
It is, I believe so, yes.
Yeah. I
For
think
the
it
use of Shanahan Field, provided they have all their insurance certificates up to date.
I'll second that.
is. Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Are we going to include the following of whatever state guidelines are issued for the spring sports?
State guidelines?
I mean, we're all still masked.
I-
I mean,
I think
It
it
is
almost
what it
goes
is.
without saying that all these programs need to follow whatever
Mm-hmm.
the current CDC and state guidelines are for safety protocol.
right, good.
All those in favor?
Yep.
Softball?
Softball, is this,
Karen will go.
Karen?
I'm here.
Hi, Karen. This isn't for high school, is it? It's for,
No, it's the Groveland youth softball. I know the high school varsity team's gonna, I think, planning on using the Pines too. I thought Dan Thornton had put in a permit request too. I'm friends with the varsity coach, so.
yeah,
I think they normally get the field after school until 5:30, and then we take the fields Monday through Friday after 5:30.
right.
And then I have requested, what we always have requested before was basically all day Saturday and Sunday. But I'm working out, Deb, the varsity softball coach, is going to take a chunk of that time on Sunday we're gonna work it out amongst ourselves at whatever time that works for her team. And my youth program will just work around that time on Sundays.
And your youth program is basically Pentucket children, girls.
Yeah, it's all Groveland, K through 5, K through 6, and then 7th and 8th grade, is gonna be Pentucket. So it's gonna be, all Groveland, West Newbury. Merrimack is gonna play under Groveland, because Merrimack and West Newbury didn't have enough kids to play.
Okay,
But
so,
K through 6 is all Groveland kids.
so it's basically you're using it like GBL, you have a Little League and a Babe Ruth League.
Yeah, we run it's run through the Essex County Women's League. And so, we had a successful program all last summer and fall. We had about 75 girls playing. We fought like we used all the COVID guidelines. We also didn't use the dugouts. We won't use the dugouts this spring either, wore the masks, and, followed all those safety guidelines.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we allowed for permitting of Groveland girls youth softball. Did I get that right?
Yep, Groveland Youth Softball.
For the softball field at the Pines. Do you have dates? April 1st?
Yeah, I requested March 20th, but we obviously won't get on. We were trying to do like a coaches clinic on a Saturday, maybe one of the next few weekends, but we won't be on the field until it dries out. But then through October, we run Groveland Youth Softball spring, and then we play as Pentucket in the summer and fall.
Yep. So,
April 1st to,
October 31st, basically.
October 31st.
you know, it snows on October 31st sometimes, right?
Yeah, I know.
All right,
I
just
know.
making sure.
And I attached, with my permit request, I attached our certificate insurance that's through August 31st, and then we'll renew in September, and I can send a new one.
Terrific. Okay. So I made my motion.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Sorry, I skipped that.
Thank you.
All right, that's gonna take quite a while. Let's jump up to COVID discussion and see what's going on with that before we get into budget discussion, which is gonna take a while, and some of the other items. Deb?
What would you like to know?
Well, if I watched the news correctly, the numbers are going down as far as number of cases. Vaccinations are going up, so that's good.
We have 17 active cases in the town.
How many over the last 14 days?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up on the DPH website.
But 17 active, that's down from what it was.
It actually
Thirty-
it went up a little bit. We had 5 new cases over the weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Ages that might not have been vaccinated or vaccination ages?
No, they haven't been vaccinated, no. I don't know
Right.
what the ages of these, it's ones I think is a part of a family
Yeah.
that,
Okay, and then, sorry, Bill, I'll get that to you in a second. And then the Merrimack Valley Clinic is back open again.
correct,
For Amesbury, thank God that was reinstated.
right. And I heard they're gonna be doing that on Saturdays and Sundays for the next few weekends.
Yes. Yeah, Aaron called me today, actually. Sorry, Bill, go ahead.
5 new cases. Does that put us back in the red?
No, we're not in red, no, because we have 17, I think we might be in the yellow, because it goes gray, green, yellow, red.
Right.
We might be in yellow.
I think we might be in red. If you had 5
Not
new
red,
cases.
no, we're not red.
If you had 5 new cases over this past weekend,
Yes, but it's
with our
still,
population,
we're not, I know we're not in the red.
We are green. We're green.
17 is green?
Well, we're green as of March 11th until they change it. They have 12 for 14 days.
March
Okay, so-
11th was before this weekend. That's going to change.
I know, well, this Thursday
Right.
will be in,
Yeah.
the way they do it, it's so weird. You just can't really, we're green. We're not going to red.
Yeah, Kathy just said it, they have us at 12. She added the 5, giving us 17.
Right.
Yeah, but some of these 12s will now drop off.
Oh, yeah,
You
sure.
know what I mean? It's a rolling
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
yeah.
So 17 is gonna be on the high, depending on if anybody drops off.
By the time Thursday comes, right, it'll probably be lower again.
Yep.
As long as there's no more cases that come up.
Correct. We get notified in the morning usually.
Yeah. We're listed as going higher, so that's, yeah. Hopefully we won't keep going
Anything
higher.
Vaccinations. So we're now part of a collaborative
Yes, we have been since,
consortium.
we had that emergency meeting last month.
Now, how is that information being disseminated to the citizens in Groveland? Is there?
Council on Aging is doing it.
Council on Aging.
Council on Aging, and then there's been press releases sent out also.
So the Council on Aging will do down to age?
We're doing 75 and over.
They're doing 65
Yeah.
Oh, they
right
are
now,
down to
too.
65
Yeah.
now? Okay.
65 and comorbidities and
Comorbidities,
teacher vaccinations are coming up this weekend, because I guess the governor has set four days for teacher vaccinations. So that's happening this weekend, from what I heard. No, seriously, someone just told me that when I was in here this weekend.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
So when the age now, the next phase kicks in, below 65, will the Council on Aging still be disseminating that information to age groups in the 50s, in the 40s, in the 30s, in the 20s?
If I could,
Probably
you can
not.
pre-register, once your phase is up, because I'm a teacher and I haven't found a vaccine yet, but I think I'm on board for one coming up real soon, but you pre-register now, you used to be, it would just say full. Now you can pre-register if your phase is up, and you tell them how you want to be notified, and I believe then you have 24 hours to take the appointment.
So you have to wait until your segment is up before you can pre-register? Or
Correct.
can you pre-register for whenever your segment comes up?
When they say you're.
So when they open the gates to 50 to 60, that's when you
Then
can
you could pre-register,
I can't register because I'm not 50.
right.
But I'm just saying.
Right. So what I'm asking is, how will that age group be notified? Is there a plan to?
It'll just be in the newspaper. It'll just be in the media.
The doctor's office are sending you things
Yeah.
too. But I mean, I'm not trying to say that it's simple, because I've been looking at this and it's, I think I have a vaccine appointment coming up soon, but we'll
Wait,
see.
nothing is simple, and hasn't been, and I don't want to take anything for granted either.
Correct. So,
I want to make sure that we have a plan that when it gets to that next level, that if this person happens to be living under a rock, they just came back from Bangladesh on a sabbatical, they hadn't picked up a newspaper in 3 years.
I
they
would
live
assume
like a
that John
hermit.
Guilfoyle would be part of that as far as the public.
Yeah,
And then also, I mean, we could also put something out on the bulletin board here.
and you can sign up at CVS and Walgreens. I mean, there's a lot of different avenues
we do
now.
have
It's
to
just,
have
you're gonna have to
Someone
start
to put that information
doing it.
to John and to the board, but we could advertise it.
I just want to make sure there's some kind of vehicle avenue that that information gets out, so that people get their vaccination ASAP, and they're not looking for information. It hits them in the head. You know, whenever they turn around, it's hitting them in the head.
But you can pre-register. I've also pre-registered, but it can be weeks before I get it.
Correct.
So,
And I've tried to do CVS.
And that's full.
They're booked constantly, no matter what time you look on there. All of them throughout the entire state, they're booked.
so can a 20-year-old today go on and pre-register?
Only if, I think it's only if they have the comorbidities.
Yes.
Yes, so if they're really sick, they have a
Underlying.
criteria, underlying.
So without that,
conditions.
no one under the age of 65 can pre-register, is that correct?
Teachers can.
Without that, and teachers, no one under the age of 65 can
It's like that movie,
pre-register,
The
is that
Church,
correct?
right? I only want
I
this.
don't believe so, but yet,
I
I've
only
got to
want
tell you,
this
when I looked
lamp.
at the pre-registration, it listed
this
grocery workers, it had a whole list that you go through, and you check off where you belonged. So I'm not quite sure, but it had,
I've been going through the list. I tell you, it's different. And then people will send you links, and I have friends sending me links, and I don't know. I know you can pre-register. I did that. My school right now has worked out something. I think I'm going to go into Haverhill and get a vaccination on Monday. That's what I'm told.
Haverhill CBS?
No, someplace in Haverhill, like Haverhill
They
Plaza
just
or
opened 2
something.
new clinics in Haverhill.
They're doing a
Someplace in
clinic.
Haverhill? Is it behind the old Building 19? I mean, where are you going?
I tell you, I'm gonna be a little worried,
I'm going to Haverhill.
I'm going to Haverhill,
Okay.
that's all I know.
I guess I was just hoping that the old World War II acronym KISS would be implemented
Keep it
across
simple.
the board. Keep it
No,
stupid
no,
simple,
it's
right?
through my school,
So
so
it's
it's like.
nice and easy.
Nothing about this has been simple.
I know, but you'd think after this time, we've learned a little bit and tried to streamline this and made this as simple as possible, because the goal is get as many shots in the arms, as many people as you can, as quickly as we can. But if we don't do a good job getting that information out, then we're defeating our own efforts. And that's what I just want to make sure, that when these phases take place, that there's a way that that information gets out to every Tom, Dick, Mary, Jesus, and Joseph out there, so that they get their shots, they know where to go, they know what to do, and it happens quickly. That's all I'm trying to
I think we
determine.
should utilize our fancy new board up front when we get that information.
Yeah.
Any way that works is fine with me. I just want to know if, that we're thinking about that now, before the next phase kicks in, and the phase after that, and hopefully there aren't any phases after 4. We're all done. But I don't know. So that's my only question and comment.
Ed, anything?
No, I just think everybody's gonna know about it. Anybody that, like Bill said, anybody not living under a rock, if they look at the TV, if they open up a newspaper, if they open up their computer, they know all about it. It's pretty well spelled out. The problem has been for people getting an appointment.
It is.
Well, the problem's gonna be getting the information that we know what segment's available for who, right? So if we find out next week that 55 and over is available, we need to get that information so we can then start putting it
Put
out.
on the sign,
So
yeah.
how do we get
Right.
that information? Is the
The
state gonna
governor,
tell
you'll
us?
hear- The governor will have, he'll be,
The news conference saying,
yeah, on his conferences, and he'll let us know, and then we'll know. Because he changes things along the way, so.
Kathy, anything else?
Nope, it's just, you just gotta stick with the process and wait on, eventually.
Jason?
No, I've got nothing.
Okay. Anybody else on COVID? You got something to
Just
say.
want it to go away. Just want it to go
That's-
away.
I was gonna say, that's the one thing I would shout out to people, that it is still here. It is still, we have students still, we have staff.
And-
It's still out there. Be careful. Keep doing this. I'll be honest, this year, I haven't even had a cold. First school year, I didn't have laryngitis or a sinus infection, so obviously the masking does work. It's a bit of an inconvenience, but it's very helpful, and it could protect you and other people. So just keep doing the masking, wash your hands, be
And
careful.
even once you've had the vaccine, make sure that, your first vaccine, you still have to wait 2 weeks, and then, well, actually, it's 14 days after your second shot, and then you can be fully, you're
Immunized.
okay.
So, Chief Gillen just sent me a text, and he said, anyone can pre-register right now, even if you are not eligible.
Oh,
He sent
okay.
me a screenshot that says, Boston CBS, anyone who lives, works, or studies in Massachusetts can now pre-register for COVID-19 vaccination appointment,
Ah.
even if you are not eligible yet.
We should have had Chief Gillen in here.
For now, this is just the state's 7 mass vaccination sites. For more locations will be added in April. So,
But the pre-registration is for the federal, I think. It's not for all the others. It's not for like, it's not gonna work for CVS.
You could pre-register, I guess, and see what happens.
Right, but it's for all the
The mass sites, I
mass
think.
sites, like
Yep.
the
big
Doubletree and Danvers,
Fenway,
or
Uh-oh.
Gillette,
Gillette, yeah.
Fenway,
Yeah.
that's what that's
so
for.
there's 2 avenues for this. There's a federal and then there's a state one.
Right.
Never easy.
So simple.
Never easy. Gotta love government.
Just,
All right. All set? Good? All right. Thank you, Deb. What?
You do have the Board of Health budget on your agenda.
We do?
Yes.
I don't have it on this agenda.
No, you don't. I misspoke. It is not listed.
How quickly can we do Pond Street?
That's simple. That's, a vote by the board to appoint a board of survey to review the property and recommend back to the board whether it should be demolished or not. Simple as that.
I read the emails and the documents that came over, the recommendations from Sam, Rebecca.
Yep. Sam and I are now in agreement that after viewing the property, it needs to be secured or torn down.
Yeah.
It's impossible to secure it because there's not enough structure to nail to. It is an attractive nuisance. Kids are getting into it. And so I concur with Sam, it's gotta get torn down. And the proper, there's two different routes to go. With the route that Sam prefers is that the board appoint a board of survey. And then, the Board of Survey reports back to the Board of Selectmen and says, with a recommendation, tear it down or not. Meantime, I'll go find the money for it, get the estimate from a company to demolish it, and then come back to you with a recommendation at a future date.
Do we have a document on this?
I do not
I don't think there was, I
I
think
mean, I don't even have a
Mike
picture of it
communicated,
or what it is.
Sam communicated directly to you and I, and I'm not sure that it was.
Sam
I
just
don't
sent
have
some
any.
emails about what he saw, the recommendations,
He
and,
and I ended up meeting to, been talking about it, and I ended up concurring, there's no real choice.
yeah.
Can't find the landowner.
Another
Landowner
one.
is long gone and hard to find.
There's a lot of those in Groveland where
Well,
we
we
can't
think he's in
find.
prison, actually.
Oh, that's a good excuse, I
Yeah,
guess.
based on reliable information. and-
Why haven't you been responding? I don't get email.
So, given that's the situation, getting the landowner hasn't paid the taxes in over a decade. You know, it's not gonna get, the taxes are not gonna get paid by the landowner.
Right.
We talked to abutters to see if they had an interest
Oh,
in
that's right.
potentially buying the land.
Nobody has any interest.
Nobody has any interest, so either we take action or potentially, now, we have no liability, but I think there's a moral question, as there always is with these tear downs. If we fail to act and a child gets injured, that's on us.
Is,
So,
and I don't recall, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I don't recall, is there structures close by?
so houses, yeah, oh yeah, occupied
Pond Street
houses, yep,
is-
sure enough.
Their houses are close on Pond
Yeah.
Street.
I was hoping that they weren't that close and the
No.
fire department could train to burn it down.
No, they're
It
pretty
appears the
close.
landowner at some point bought this land, put up some kind of a structure on it, and thought he was gonna end up with lakefront property and a road through there, and that never happened. So there's sort of a squatter's house there that's now fallen apart, not maintained, and kids are definitely in there.
Have we taken this property in tax title?
It has been put into tax title, but the town has never pursued foreclosure. So it's what we call upside down, i.e. the value of the taxes owed is more than the value of the land. Land is valued at about $3,000, the taxes are in excess of $6,000. That's a different problem that I'm actually, there'll be a memo coming to you at some point about that, because it appears that there's a number of other properties. This is just one. But during the course of researching this, I discovered there's a more broader problem, but I don't want you to get into that tonight, because that's just a big discussion.
Yeah, like I said, I was hoping to make it quick, but I think Rebecca wants to add a couple of points to this, or you just
No,
want to
she's
listen?
back for the,
I just wanted to listen. I was the unfortunate person who put the bug in Sam's ear.
Oh, so it comes, see, now in the last
Your
session,
fault.
the last sessions, the bar was set really high for the work that she does. And here we are rectifying that and coming down a couple notches.
tearing it down.
We don't own this property,
We do not.
so the town attorney should look at this.
Yeah, we don't need to own the property in order to,
I would still be
raise
more
it.
comfortable if the town attorney took a look at this before.
Sam
we
has
do.
experience raising property. I've done a ton of them.
Again, I would be more
They,
comfortable with the town attorney looking
You
at
know,
it.
unfortunately, when you've got a property and the landowner isn't maintaining it, it becomes an attractive nuisance to kids. You know,
Well,
So is there any, again, we're getting into the weeds of this, is there any legality to us taking it because of back taxes or,
well,
because we've run into a couple of those situations before.
yeah, at the time where we would actually take possession of the property is a whole separate question, because there's a whole procedure that you have to go through with
Right.
the state when you take property where the taxes owed are in.
So you're taking this down for a safety measure,
Right, that's it.
and that's it, but you're not
Not
assuming the
proposing-
property right now.
I am not proposing transference of the property or anything, no. Nope, just take the structure down and render it safe, that's it. And we did take a look at a controlled burn. Fire chief said no, because it's too brushy and it would be a threat.
That's a very tightly.
We looked at boarding it up.
Yeah.
There's literally not enough to nail on to, so this is really the only viable option left.
Is it possible to put temporary fencing around it?
Yep. That's what George
As a
said.
cheaper solution?
You could, but honestly, Bill, kids love temporary fencing because it's just a little bit more of a challenge to get past, so. The kind of fencing you'd have to put to actually keep kids out, think how inventive they are. I know.
Be like the
bad-
fencing around the Capitol.
Yeah, I know the bad things I did when I was a kid. And
Mhm.
if you put fencing up, that was just more of an invitation. So, we looked at everything reasonable. I don't think you're looking at a big tear down cost here, because it's a wooden structure, doesn't appear to be any hazmat, no asphalt shingles. We're hoping, keeping our fingers crossed. Remember, this is gonna come back to you before anything happens. This is just what's called a border survey, which is literally 3 people that go out and look at it and say, yep, that should come down, or nope, there's another alternative. Report comes back to you with an estimate for the demolition.
All right, so we're approving you guys to go look at it and make a
Yeah,
recommendation.
that's it.
Perfect. Everybody all right? Mike wants to join in.
There are a couple of abandoned vehicles on the site, and the site is within the 100-foot buffer of the pond.
Mm-hmm.
So that's conservation's concern, so.
Yeah, we'll,
We could do an enforcement order to have them taken out and start fining them.
yeah, while you were out of the room, Mike, I reported that the owner is long gone. He hasn't paid the taxes in 10 years, and we're pretty sure he's in prison. So,
Yeah.
the options come down from a whole bunch to basically none.
Yeah.
So at that point, if you come back and say you're gonna recommend taking it down, and the land's still gonna just stay in the same ownership, but the cars and all that stuff, you can then enforce an order to have those removed, cars for kids or whatever you're gonna donate it to, whatever it is.
Yeah, we can do that too. Yep, if this guy did, Sam didn't mention cars. Sam doesn't even really have jurisdiction over cars. He's got
Right.
jurisdiction legally over buildings.
Right.
But, while we're out there, if Concom wants the cars removed, we'll do it all.
Good? All right. Let's make a motion to give Kevin the go-ahead to at least come up with a plan on this and then report back to us. Jason wants to say something.
What'd you ask for, Kevin?
Motion would be to appoint a board of survey to review the conditions of the structure at 11 Pond Street.
Motion to appoint a board of survey to
Review the
review the
conditions of the
conditions at
structure
11 Pond Street as an unsafe abandoned property.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. All those in favor? All right. Jumping down to United States Geological Society Water Quality Study. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Use of boat ramp and waiving the fee for the boat ramp access. This seems like a trivial thing to consider,
This is
but
pretty simple. The state is doing some analysis work. They need a place to put their boat, measuring quality of the river. And we would like to not charge them for doing us a big favor, basically, and all the taxpayers and all the folks that use the river. And that involves vote of the board to waive the normal fee for mooring, for ramp access, I'm sorry.
And what's the fee for ramp? It's like $15, $25?
Not
What was
much.
it? I think it was $100 for a
Oh, is it 100
non-resident.
now?
No, I think that's for a mooring.
Oh.
What was that?
I think that's for a mooring, $100.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's
the boat
45 or
ramp's
50
cheap.
to
I
use
think
the
ramp
ramp for the
access
season.
is like 10 or 15, it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, it's pretty
Very
cheap. I think it's like 10 or 15, so this is,
The people with USGS are looking to get on to the meeting and said that they would answer any questions that you had specifically asked about their charge.
Oh. $15. Sorry.
So, someone will make a motion that we approve that?
I'll make a motion that we waive the boat ramp fee for USGS water quality study.
Second.
You can let them know, right? Thank you.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Yep.
Quickie. Groveland Congregational Church approval to have a Palm Sunday car parade after services, 11:30 a.m. 3/28/21.
I'll move approval. It's a car parade with Palm Sunday.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
What does it entail?
I
Will
would
they-
assume it's mostly like those birthday party parades
Palms.
last year, but,
Cars and palms.
yeah,
Exactly
palms
right.
and cars and,
Yep.
They require any police escorts, or?
We'll just have them coordinate with the police chiefs, you know. but
yeah, because
other
they're
than
not
that-
doing the escorts anymore. They stopped doing that midsummer.
Yeah, I know.
But I think people were letting them know, hey, we're gonna have this birthday parade
Yeah.
Yeah.
on this day on this street. So as long as they do that, then I don't have a problem with
It
it.
probably knows, there's a statute, I can't quote it, that when you do a gathering like this, you're supposed to get permission from the board, the governing authority of the town. I couldn't tell you what the statute is, but I know that you have to get approval of the board.
It's probably very long and has a lot of subsections. to it.
Yeah, and then they go to the chief, and then they go to the chief, and he decides if he needs details or what.
Right.
Is there a specific route, just so everybody else knows, maybe not to be on the road there?
Yeah, when I took her phone call, she said they want to go from the church down Main Street, up 7 Star, across to 97 on Center Street, and then come down 97 and back to the church. But she didn't have that 100% confirmed at the time, and that was about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So it's mostly back roads.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so we give people an idea, like, hey, don't go down that road at
Yeah.
11:30. It's
All
fine.
right. All in favor?
Right.
All right. Let's move on to budget discussion. I was hoping this would go away some way around tonight, but that did not happen. Kevin?
So the good news, folks, is this. A couple weeks ago, I computed took all the revenue, all the budgets that have been submitted, compared it to the revenues that we had available, and it wasn't good news. I let Mike know that, and we basically decided that rather than create, a lot of concern, which might not end up being justified, we would wait a week or two and let a few of those items settle out. So a lot of work took place in the last 2 weeks. The bottom line is, all the information has been put in. The key thing that we didn't have that we needed to compute was the debt service schedule for the school, because the school budget was up pretty dramatically, but that increase included
The capital.
excluded debt service that the voters have authorized for the new school and for a project at Bagnell years ago. And that money, whatever that debt service is, gets raised in addition to whatever else taxes are. So you have to know that in order to net out what the school assessment is. So we finally get that done, and I gotta give credit to Ellen. She did fantastic work with me last week. We took the actual debt service schedules for exempt and non-exempt and put up a gigantic spreadsheet and got that all in. State cherry sheet came in a couple of weeks ago, so we were able to put in the governor's cherry sheet numbers, which were very favorable. Assessments went down, and cherry sheet aid went up. Now, that was unexpected, because as you recall, back in November, December, I predicted a 10% loss of cherry sheet aid, which was a $100,000 hit, and the governor actually has proposed an increase in unrestricted local aid. So, not a big one, but the 100,000 that I was carrying as a deficit number now went to a positive. We got the town's excluded debt numbers put in accurately. And basically what happened is the whole thing shifted to, we had a sufficient balance that I was able to take out of the expense side the 85,000 for OPEB that we usually fund from free cash, and which, all things being equal, is not a good idea. You don't want to fund anything from free cash if you can avoid it, maybe capital. And last year, when we certified a $250,000 on July 1, 2020, free cash was down dramatically. So I took that out. OPEB is now being funded out of general taxation. And we always carry 50,000 transfer from something called overlay surplus to balance the budget. That's an extraordinarily bad idea, because that revenue source is very cyclical. So I was able to remove that. And key, all the budgets are in, including all the ones that you're about to talk about, where there's increases. These are all in the budget now, assumed to be funded pending your votes. And the result of all this is that we've got about $250,000 surplus of revenue over expense. So that's a great situation, because you remember you voted, the school, Pentucket very graciously offered to subsidize, reduce the assessment this year with the use of the ESSER 2 money, which is a federal grant program. It's one-time money. So my goal was to have the budget end up 250,000 surplus, so that next year, assuming the Pentucket budget is at least as high as it is now and probably higher, but the ESSER 2 money, $250,000 is gone, that you've got $250,000 in your budget this year, which offsets that, and there's no hole that we've dug into next year's budget that we have to start off making up. So I'm happy to report that that's been compensated for too. So as we sit here tonight, the budget is balanced, everything that's been submitted is in. If it's the will of the board to approve those submissions, you are able to do so from a financial point of view without any duress at all. If it's the perspective of the board not to approve them, that's up to you folks. But what I want to assure you of is that you have the revenue to do it, and you've actually got, right now, a pretty tidy little surplus in there, which I'm going to recommend to you once we get it all buttoned up, because there's still another week or two of analysis that has to go on, because there's still a few numbers floating, but those numbers are going to come in favorably. I'm going to end up recommending that you take a chunk of that and put it in stabilization, because you're going to have some surplus to be able to do that.
So,
At the same time, I wanted to report to you, Ellen and I did some work on the, and again, kudos to Ellen, great work. We went back 3 years and computed the collection ratio, because when you assume your revenue, you assume 100% of your tax revenue is going to get collected, and we know perfectly well it's not. Now, Groveland's had an extraordinarily high, as was reported to me, 99+% tax collection ratio. So we went back and computed that for 3 years, and come to find out that is not true. Now, we've had a good one, and it's been 99 once, but most of the other years it's been 98. Now, that's still good. However, as we thought might be the case, it dipped last year to 97, and so far this year, it's dipped below that. But tracking it this time of year doesn't mean anything, because a lot of people pay their tax bills late. So computing a ratio at this time of year just doesn't mean anything. You compute it out in August after the year's closed and a couple of months go by. Now, why is the 97% collection ratio important? Because that's part of the reason your free cash went down last year. Because when you predict you're gonna collect 100% of your revenue, and then you create a small margin for the non-collection in something called the overlay, the offset for abatements, non-collections, etc. But you only set it at a small number. We set about 150. For every percentage point that we don't collect, that costs us $150,000. The levy's about $15 million. So being 2 points off meant a hit to revenue of $300,000, and that's where some of your free cash went that you didn't collect. That's the combination. The prior years you certified 750, so the combination of a 2% drop in collection ratio, and you spent about $700,000 the prior year of that 750, means on July 1, June 30, 2020, free cash went down dramatically. So, all that being said, I can't yet tell you where we're going to be on June 30 of this year, because the first thing we had to do was compute that collection ratio, and we now got that locked in pretty well. I can start doing some estimates of where I think free cash is going to be, but I'm not going to do that for probably weeks yet, because the big things coming up are going to be the warrant, finishing the budget. Whatever action you take on these budgets may or may not mean budget amendments. New budgets have to be put together and sent out for inclusion in the budget book. Formula's got to be changed and all that. So that work's got to happen first, but at some point I'll do an estimate of free cash for you and tell you where you're headed on June 30, and you'll know that well before you actually get there, what that's going to look like. But so far right now, the FY22 budget is looking mighty good, folks. Mighty
so
good.
of that 250,000 surplus-ish thing that we're probably playing with now, in relation to some of the additional items that we're looking at for budget requests, up to this point? What does that look like? As
So the only thing you're looking at right now that's not already in the budget and included in that surplus is the additional money for the town clerk.
Yep. Yep.
Subject you're gonna take up tonight with the conservation agent is already in there. That's already assumed, it's already in the budget, that Rebecca and Mike collaborated on. So, all of the things that are in the budget that are increases, and I can tick down all those pretty easily for you, those are all in there already. And so anything you don't approve you take out just makes the $250,000 get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Got it. Any questions for Kevin? Ed?
And I sent you a very
I-
detailed spreadsheet,
Yep.
you all got that, right? Okay.
Ed?
No, I don't have any.
Bill? You're the numbers guy.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I'm skeptical. I just, we went from such a bad place 2 meetings ago to such a good place. You know, when anything sounds too good to be true.
Well, I want to reassure you that backing up that summary spreadsheet that you saw is a gigantic one. It is a monster. It's literally this big. I can't print it on paper unless I go to Staples and put it on 11 by 14 or something. But there's a much more complex spreadsheet that I constructed which backs up that summary one that you've seen. And Bill, at some point, I'm happy to share it with you. In fact, I'll share it with the whole board. It's much, much more detailed, and it lays out every single expense and every single revenue. And reason I made this thing is because it becomes a checklist for town meetings. So while we're sitting in the town meeting, Ellen, Beth, and I will be sitting there, and every single time you take a vote, we check it off on the spreadsheet. If it's something changes, we record it. I'll have the computer with me, and it will instantly tell me if it threw it out of balance or didn't throw it out of balance and where it threw it out of balance. So as you're going through town meeting, we're able to give you regular updates that town meeting is changing, what that's submitted. And then when the town meeting's over and we do the recap sheet in the fall, this thing does it for you. I mean, it's an interactive spreadsheet, and it's a great piece of work. I've been doing them for 30 years like that, and it makes life a lot easier. I'll share that with you.
I'll take one of those.
You might have
'cause
more confidence
you know
because
what?
that is complicated.
Because you know what? As accountants, like, we have a great expression, the devil's in the details. I love to look at the details because that's where you find a problem if there's one exists. So this high-level stuff is great. It looks good.
I don't like this
But,
particular.
you know, just like
But it's what you're used to seeing.
ex-President Reagan, trust but verify. So,
Yeah.
yeah, send me
Oh, yeah.
the full-blown detail. I'd really love to.
This is the format you've been using. It's the format that goes into the town report. It's in the warrant, I mean, so I just adopted it because you're all used to seeing it. The finance board's used to seeing it. It's a shorthand version of a much, much more complex detail, and I'll give you that when that one's all done.
Yeah, in Excel.
Yep. Yep.
Both sides, revenue and expense
It's all in
side.
Excel. Formulas are all embedded. You'll click on the box, you'll see the formula.
Oh, yeah. I hope so. Plugs don't work well for me.
So that's the overarching report. Members of the board, Mr. Chairman.
All set, Bill, for now?
Yeah.
Kathy?
Yeah, I echo Selectman O'Neill's level of question, because we typically don't fit so well with extra. And now, you also still have the wrong lines on Essex and Whittier. You need to switch those. The numbers are wrong.
The which, I'm sorry?
Whittier and Essex, you have them still switched, the assessments. Are those the actual assessments, or do those just
Oh,
numbers? you're-
Whittier,
wrong lines.
Whittier just came in today.
Yeah, but you have them on the wrong lines. You have Whittier on the Essex line and Essex on the Whittier line still.
Oh, okay, I'll
I
fix that.
keep telling
yeah.
you that every
Yeah.
time, because I
Yep, I'll
I
fix
keep
that.
staring at these numbers and I go, there's something wrong, there's something wrong.
Yeah, so
And then
Whittier.
I go, oh, he hasn't fixed that yet. So please fix that,
Sure.
because that took me like 5 minutes of staring and going,
Sure,
something's
happy
wrong
to.
here.
Sure.
So that needs to be fixed. I just.
Whittier came in today, so I'll have the actual number
Yep,
for you.
I
but it's
worry about
lower.
the debt exclusion and the town debt. I'd like to see the breakdown on that to make sure that it ties out.
You have the breakdown in your budget book in enormous detail. You've
on
got
the
the
debt
actual.
schedule that
Yes,
ties to your
you've
spreadsheets?
got the
'Cause
actual debt service
this is my
schedules in there.
concern, is this revenue budget spreadsheet totals differently than the omnibus spreadsheet, and we're used to
Oh,
seeing.
no, you cannot look at the omnibus and that spreadsheet.
Well,
When Denise created that spreadsheet, she did a lot of shortcuttings of things.
okay, I don't want to get into the who did what to what. I'm saying these should add up to the same numbers, if they're the same budget. So
It will not.
there's just, well, you gave me this one from Denise.
I'll be happy to explain why. The
Okay.
summary takes the operating budget and it extracts out of it many, many cost items which are funded elsewhere or are funded lower in the expense
I just
side of the
need to see
formula.
the broken
It's very,
detail.
very complex.
I need to see the complex. I'm very good with
I-
complex. Yes.
I-
So my only other thing, I just want to put the heads up there that I definitely want to make sure the budget is within bounds. And then there are items in the budget that I did want to go over once we determine where we are balance-wise. I want to make sure that we're in balance, for sure. And I don't have that information right now
Well,
to know
what
that.
more is it that you would like
Okay, well,
to
you're.
convince you you're in balance, other than me giving you a detailed spreadsheet that says so? Because it lists all the revenues and all the expenses. I don't know
Well,
what
you
more I can
list
give you.
totals, you list the town budget, then you list Whittier, then you list this, then over here you have it totaled, all the town budgets with Whittier. Well, at first it didn't have Whittier. I just want the numbers to, usually they're tabs on the same worksheet, so they
You have
link.
exactly what you've been given every single year. Absolutely not a shred of difference.
Okay, so the $20 million number that's on the omnibus is where on the budget and revenue? I mean, it's broken up. See, that's where I keep going back and forth trying to figure out.
Again, the summary document you have is identical to what you've been given every year. In the warrant, which you don't have yet, and you're not gonna have for weeks, you're
Okay,
gonna have the omnibus budget article.
okay,
Now, that's not
okay,
written
so,
yet, because I haven't written the warrant yet. I mean, that's still weeks away.
okay. So, I guess I'm not gonna vote the omnibus because there's line items in here that still need to be discussed, but I guess for now, we'll just wait. Kentucky's voting their budget tomorrow night. They haven't voted the assessments yet. I'm told they're going to reduce versus the booklet that we were given.
You don't have to vote the budget if you don't want to. It's goes to, it has
Yeah.
your recommendation, but I notice in past year's warrants, Board of Selectmen recommendation is often not been indicated,
Right.
so I assume that means you didn't vote in time for it to be printed. It has to go,
Right.
it has to get posted, I think, Beth can help me out, she's on here, but I think the posting date is in early April.
Okay,
So I'll be writing the warrant very soon, and it'll be going to the, not to the printer, it'll be
for
printed.
posting.
Like our
It'll be
first
posted
meeting in
on
Yeah.
town.
April?
That's all
And that
right.
is the official town meeting warrant, and if the board does not finish its work in terms of recommending things prior to that, then your recommendations can't be in the warrant.
You mean by like April 12th? I think that's our
Yeah, I think that sounds like the
first
right date.
April meeting.
Yep.
Okay. Jason, anything?
Nope.
So, you said by the next meeting, we should have a real clear picture of what that number finally looks like.
Yeah, it's gonna get better, it's not gonna get worse. It's going to get, the school, Pentucket is gonna vote their budget tomorrow night, I understand, and I'll get the official budget. I've already got a pretty good indication of where that's likely to be. That's the last piece that needs to drop. After that, there's a number of other factors, but they're all gonna get better, not worse. The insurance budgets, because the RFP on the insurance probably won't be back till, April, might even not come in till town meeting, so you may end up voting a number for town meeting and then finding out after you got a good surplus in that line. I can't control when the bidders submit their bids.
Right.
But by the 29th, all the numbers will be final, except for numbers that might get better, put it that way. There won't be many of them, there'll only be a couple. The insurances, and that actually may be the only number that's still unsettled.
But by the 29th, we'll have a clear indication of whether or not we can fund the clerk assistant position, whether or not we can fund additional hours for the finance administrator office staffing, and then whether or not we can fund the conservation position, which I think Rebecca wants to make a slight change to.
I would tell you right now, as it stands, you can, but if the board's more comfortable having his other things nailed down.
I'm more comfortable with the final
Then I would
numbers.
say on the 29th, if the board plans that night, prior to that, I apologize for memoing you to death, but that's the most convenient way to get info to you. Prior to the 29th, you'll have another update to that revenue forecast, giving you more information that's now settled. And I'll tell you exactly what isn't settled, but pretty much everything will be. And then the night you come in for the 29th, you'll know what you can and can't do. But
Yeah, that's my preference, is to have an ultimate, this is what you have and this is what you can fund as far as these other things coming down. Rebecca, did you have a request to change that conservation description, that position?
So essentially,
Up to the mic.
so just that, after the board had approved the position for the 42, for the full-time position with benefits, and as I had mentioned in the memo that I sent over to you, I had always had a vision for the department to move in that direction, to have an environmental program coordinator. I didn't necessarily think it would happen when we first created the department. That was not what I had in mind. Not that it's not a good thing, but it's just not something that I thought would happen so quickly. And because Mike was able to push this through, it just made sense that if we're gonna move in this direction and we're gonna make this investment, that it be something that the department could benefit from, as well as the Conservation Commission. So in working with Mr. Dempsey, we had put together some additional job description qualifications and changed the title to reflect that of more of an environmental planner than necessarily just a conservation agent. And so I had sent that over to you as a consideration, if you are to still move forward with that full-time position, to take those changes into consideration, so that then Mike and I, when we go to the Finance Committee on Wednesday, could have a more final plan to put forth for our budget.
Do we have another document in here then? A job description or something?
Did you submit that? Did it make it into, it didn't make it into this packet.
I think it came in
In today, right?
We had a bunch of things submitted today, and we didn't get everything in there, but suffice to
okay.
say, I think between Mike and Rebecca and I, there is now agreement on the following. I don't think there's any disputing the fact that there's sufficient balances in both the Conservation Fund and the VZ Park Fund now to fund it for 1 year, the position. $42,000 position is 21 and 21 in there, will be there in May to be able to transfer. Now, at some point after June 30, 2022, there will not be as much revenue brought in each year as the salary and expenses is worth, and there will be a shortfall. How much will the shortfall be? On the VC side of the equation, i.e. that 21,000, there probably won't be any shortfall, because that revenue is very substantial, and when COVID's over and weddings and functions can be booked, there's a lot of money that comes into that account. On the conservation side, there will be a shortfall. Now, that shortfall has a range on it. It can be anywhere between as high as 6 or 7 or 8,000 and as low as 2 or 3,000. What I think Mike and Rebecca are proposing is that they will endeavor to make that up by some combination of revenues. Could be grants, could be additional revenue that comes in because of activity, because you have this person's, this capability of this person, and so now you can do things that you weren't able to do before that can turn into revenue. So they're not 100% clear. I don't think it can be honestly said where the revenue is going to come from. But the worst case scenario says the impact on taxation is very small. Worst case scenario, it's small. Now, in addition to that small impact, you also have the health insurance component, okay? And we just got the health insurance rates last Thursday from the GIC, and the GIC has 16 plans, and the spread between this plan and that plan is enormous. So which plan the person would take and which 75% we'd pay and they'd pay 25, that's the matching share.
We gotta assume the highest, right?
I can't tell you. If I assume the highest, then the cost of the town would be somewhere around 13, 14, 15,000, right in there. That's the most benefit-rich plan. If I assume the least expensive, then it's gonna be substantially less than that. And it's also impacted by, is it a family plan or an individual plan? Now, if it's an individual plan, the cost of the town's only in the range of 7 or 8,000. That 15 is a family plan.
Right.
So, I can bracket it for you, but I can't adjust it precisely to what it is. I can only say that. And there's been no misrepresentation, about that being a town cost. That's been said all along. And I wanted to add one other thing. I had said in my memo that I thought there was an intentional misrepresentation, and Mike and I have chatted about that at length in my office last week. And I would like to modify that and say that I think there was a miscommunication. I think it's important we all work together, and I think it's important that we avoid harsh words whenever we can. So I would like to say that I no longer believe that there was an intentional misrepresentation, but I do think there was some miscommunication. Mike and I have cleaned that up now, and I think we're in agreement with the fact set that I just gave you. So is there some risk to the town in terms of having to make up a shortfall? Yep. Is it a big is it a big number? No. I would say it's a pretty, in my mind, it's a guarantee that there's gonna be a shortfall, but it could be a very small one. And so I would say to the board, I don't think this is any more in the category of a major league financial decision, because frankly, with a $20 million budget, if there's a shortfall of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6,000, it's not gonna upset your budget. I think the question for the board is this something you're ready to do? Is this a need for the community that you see? And I would turn to Mike and Rebecca for that presentation, not myself.
Well, the
because
board voted.
They understand it. Now, you're on record right now, 3-2.
Right.
To put this in your budget. So unless you take a new vote, my instruction is to leave it in the budget. It's in there now. So my instruction.
Well,
is
that
to
was a
put it
vote of the previous meeting, and changing the job description and duties isn't going to affect the pay or anything else. So I don't know that we have to take another vote on it.
You don't have to take another vote unless you want to.
Right. Again, my bottom line, as always, is a balanced budget. And as long as we have either a balanced budget or a surplus across the board, then I'm happy. Because
Well, I'll
too
give
often,
you-
government does not have a balanced budget.
Well, I'll
Drives
give
me
you a little
nuts.
bit of good news on that note. So in the $250,000 surplus that report I gave you is showing right now, the $42,000 expense for this position is in the expense part of that spreadsheet. The $42,000 revenue is not in there. And the reason is because until we got all these moving parts settled, and I did that analysis I gave you, I wasn't gonna put $42,000 of revenue in there and tell you you had it, until I was sure you had it. So what I can tell you tonight is you have it. I mean, you've been given the full breakdown, we've analyzed it ad infinitum. So when I take the 42,000 of revenue, and you're gonna see a special line created in that formula that's gonna say, probably conservation, BC Park receipts, it's gonna plug 42, the number, the positive balance, is gonna go up $42,000. So the budget, the balanced budget spreadsheet you've got is actually gonna improve. That's one of the things I said was one of those factors that's still out there that I have to plug in. I was waiting tonight to see what you're gonna do with this thing before I plug the revenue number in and/or adjust the expense side. So if the board approves this, then I leave the expense side in, but now I add the revenue, and the picture gets that much better.
Again, I think the board already approved it, so I don't see the need to take another vote. Nothing's changed other than the job duties and descriptions. There's no difference in pay or benefits.
Yep.
So I don't see the need to vote. Ed?
Well, I respectfully disagree, because the last meeting, we were told the benefit package might cost us $7,000, and now we hear with the most expensive, we might be up to $13,000.
Let me explain that, Ed. The candidate that was identified indicated they would need individual insurance, not family. So, assuming that was the case, then the cost would be that 7 or 8. Worst case, the cost would be 7 or 8. If we hired that person and they took the most benefit-rich plan, The town's 75% share would be about 7 or 8,000. And I couldn't peg it any closer because I didn't have the rates yet. Now I've got the rates.
But I'd,
However, part of Rebecca's presentation, and I don't know where Mike is on it, but I agree, is that if it's gonna be a full-time position, it should be re-advertised. Because I concur, the candidate pool was very small. We had 2 applicants, that was it. I think, and that's because it was a part-time position. If we advertise it as a full-time position, I think you're gonna improve the candidate pool dramatically, and you're gonna get a much better person. Now, if you do that, you might end up with a better qualified person, but they might need a family plan for health insurance. So I don't know what's gonna happen, Ed, so
Well,
I just
I'd-
wanna explain
I
that.
would, on second thought on this, I would like to see at least some of the benefit package come out of either VZ or conservation fees. And rather than the town taking the hit for maybe
Yeah.
13,000. And I know it's tough, like you said, you're gonna be a shortfall. But maybe looking at it in the future, we can move this to, whether it be an increase in fees, to pick up the benefit package.
Well, you would have enough, because there's been a surplus built up in both funds. You'd probably have enough to fund 50% of the health insurance for next fiscal year if you wanted to do it. I would recommend against doing that right now, because I would rather see you establish the position, give it a year to generate more revenue, show what it can do, and then come back in a year, now with more information, and frankly, challenge the position. You know, challenge the person in the position. You need to raise 42,000, and you need to raise your fringe benefits too. You know, I mean, if I were in the position, I'd love a challenge like that personally. So that's another way you can look at it. I mean, you've got the resources now, but frankly, if you transfer the money out of the surplus that's in there now, you're just gonna run out on the back end that much sooner. So, you know, it's a 6 of one, half dozen of the other game. But I do think there's some wisdom to the fact that if you have this position, part of what they're gonna do at VC is do marketing and things like that with an intent of bringing in more revenue. And if that's successful, then you might be sitting here a year from now with sufficient resources to fund the salary and the fringe benefits. I don't know. Maybe. I certainly am not gonna tell you that's gonna happen, but I will say it's possible.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
can I interrupt for just a point of, I don't know if it's order or information?
hold on, I'll
Yep.
get to you in a second. Ed, are you all set? Do you have anything else?
Yes, I go along with the recommendation that, I just don't like to see the townspeople have to take a hit on this.
Kathy?
So we already voted this, and in order to re-vote it, one of us who voted yes would have to rescind our vote, I believe.
We already voted
That's
this.
Robert's rules.
One of us would have to rescind our
Whoever
vote.
voted yes, it can't be someone who voted no. So it was a 3-2 vote, you said, correct? I
Right.
believe I voted yes, I'm not rescinding my vote.
I thought I already said we don't need a vote.
Okay, so we don't, so then, because it just seemed like the discussion's going on and on about how we have to vote something else, and I don't see what else.
No, I think the discussion is just on the points of the position and what the expectations are. I don't think anyone's voting to.
Oh,
either
okay, so we're not
approve or
voting
approve.
anything more. I got a
Nope.
little confused. Thank you for the clarification.
You all set, Bill?
No, the whole thing really kind of worries me, because VZ Park, are you to the point where you're self-sufficient yet, or does the town still subsidize some of the insurance on that property?
I had an agreement with Denise about being able to pay that entire amount of our insurance. We couldn't do it in 1 year.
Right.
We had to spread it over 3 or 4 years. But since Denise left, you know, I talked to the finance director, and we're working on seeing what did or didn't happen, because Denise was automatically transferring the money out without me telling her to do it. So we don't really know what's been done this fiscal year. We
This-
have to check.
This fiscal year, you know, I don't know how other people do business, but I don't take money out of an account without talking to people about it. So my assumption in the budget this year is that 50% of the property casualty policy will be funded out of receipts. 50%, not the whole thing. And again, the reason is, VC Park generates an enormous amount of revenue every year, in a normal year. This is not a normal year, so revenue is way down comparatively. But assuming things start returning to normal this summer and this fall, I think they'd start generating a lot of revenue again. And I think the proper posture is to say 50% of the PC policy this year, and then let's take a look at it again next year. And if the capacity is there to fund more of it, sure, the goal is to always make these things self-supporting if you can. And so I would encourage you to look next year. You'll have this new person doing some work, maybe bringing in more money, and maybe there'll be an ability to do that. So that would be a success story for the town, I think.
Okay. And as far as the benefits go, fiscal conservancy would say that you should put in the highest dollar amount possible. If it's less, it's a pickup. But you can't go the other way after that egg is broken. That's it.
Jason?
I'm good.
So I guess we'll have final information on this for the next meeting and vote on all of that? Is that?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any new information on this one.
But that'll be the final set in
But
stone?
you can vote this as part of the whole package next time on all
Yep.
these things.
Okay. Okay. Are you guys gonna stay for the remaining piece, or are you guys going home?
I'm good after that. Thank you very much.
You don't wanna stay?
No, I'm good, thank
Well, that
you.
didn't
I'll
take
watch on
long.
TV.
You sure?
You can watch it on
It's a lot of
TV.
fun, everybody's doing it.
Okay.
All right.
Just a question for the board. So for the next agenda, I'm not gonna put a bunch of specific things on, I don't think. I'm just gonna put the budget on.
Yep.
And then anything in the budget is fair game for any board member
That works.
who wants to bring it up. But we won't be picking things out. Is that correct?
That works.
Okay.
I think, we'll have the Board of Health budget to discuss before that. I don't think there's
Oh,
gonna be.
right. That one has never been, yep.
Yeah, but I don't think there's gonna be much that changes on that. So let's move to approve the minutes.
Well, while we're on the budget subject, can I just go back to one quick point?
Sure.
So, the document you gave me, we've got it marked on 214. It's the budget requests, PY comparisons, right? I've got a total FY '22 of $20,313,517. Now I've got $20,498,251, a change of $184,734 upwards.
Yeah, the reason is because after that budget in the budget book was published, some of the budgets changed, particularly Pentucket. And so the spreadsheet you've got, that you just got this week in the memo, that's the more accurate document.
Okay.
I don't go back and change the one in the budget book because honestly, Bill, that thing is a snapshot in time and it changes every week.
Yep, good
Something will
enough.
change.
Thank you.
What's that?
Yeah.
So as of March 15th, then, that's the one you want us to,
Yeah, if you three-hole punch the summary one, and you put it, and you keep putting it, I date them, you keep putting it on top of your budget book, you'll have them as they develop over time.
Yeah. I do the same, I date them.
All right, let's move on to approve the minutes. Approval of Board of Selectmen minutes, February 16th, 2021.
Motion to approve Selectmen minutes from February 16, 2021.
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
Approval of minutes from executive session meeting, February 16th, 2021.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Release of minutes from executive session meeting, February 16th, 2021.
Motion to release executive session minutes from February 16, 2021.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yep.
Approval of minutes from executive session meeting, March 1st, 2021.
Motion to approve executive session meeting minutes from March 1st, 2021. Getting late, isn't it?
It is.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
It's early if we get out before 9.
Motion to release minutes from executive session meeting minutes of March 1st, 2021. I'm going to beat you to it.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Motion to approve Board of Selectmen minute meetings from March 1st, 2021.
Second.
Taking away my mojo, Bill.
I know, man.
All that
I'm
in
trying to
favor?
move
All
you
those in
along.
favor? Jason? You in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Old business. Finance director hours, contract provisions, and administrative coordinator hours.
That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is, I gave the board a detailed memo. I'm not gonna go through that whole giant thing, but the intent of it was less for the board's edification, because you've read it, more for people at home who will be wondering what this is all about. I gave the board a pretty extensive spreadsheet showing the hours I've been working since I joined you and exactly what I do every week. And it's become pretty apparent in the last couple of weeks in particular that in order to do this interim finance director position for you and do all the myriad things it entails, it's gonna be necessary to spend 30 to 40 hours a week. That's becoming completely obvious. As we head toward town meeting, the demands, the hours that have to get put in to get the work done is just getting more and more extensive. And so frankly, I'm asking the board to recognize that and to pay me for the hours that I work. Up until now, my contract calls for 19 hours. In that spreadsheet, I've demonstrated, a few hundred hours that I was happy to work without compensation. And I don't mind doing that. I'm not looking for any of that back. That was my conscious decision. I was happy to do it. But Bill, I think it was you made the point when you folks interviewed me back in November for this position. You said, you will tell us if it requires more, right? I said, sure I will. I frankly didn't think it would, but it's pretty obvious that the combined responsibilities of the finance director doing all this financial analysis that I do and simultaneously doing the town administrator work, it just can't get done in 19 hours. It's impossible. So I've been putting in the time and giving you what you need. But I just frankly came to the decision I cannot continue to do 30, 40 hours a week, and you can see I'm doing it, and not get paid. So I'm making a very simple request. Like most other people, I'd like to be paid for my work. And so my request to the board is simple, to lift the 19-hour cap and allow me to be paid the actual hours that I work between now and town meeting. And when town meeting is over, then we can revisit this and, see what you'd like to do. Certainly the workload will probably lighten up a bit after town meeting, at least I hope so, because, I cannot work I don't want to work full-time, put it that way. I have another job. But between now and town meeting, I'm willing to give the time that's required to get the work done. I gave you a fairly extensive briefing in that memo about what has to get done. That's a pretty good summation of all the work that's got to get done. What I don't say in that is the bazillion things that come up unexpectedly. I mean, this is I just brought this because I thought it was kind of fun. The Boundary and Annexation Survey for the United States Census Bureau. Somebody has to take this form and fill it out. I looked at it today. It's going to take a lot of time. It's got to get done. I mean, the United States Census Bureau. Somebody's going to fill this thing out. There's nobody in the staff I can just hand this to and say, hey, you fill this thing out. That kind of stuff happens all the time. And that's fine. I don't mind doing it, but I'd like to get paid for it. So it's a pretty simple request. And if I can, Mr. Chairman, I'll just blend in the conversation about the administrative coordinator's position too. Part of the reason that I'm spending a lot of time, and part of that time I spend, is frankly doing work that could be done much more efficiently by the administrative coordinator. And so I would ask the board to consider increasing those hours to 25, from 19 to 25, again, up till town meeting. Once town meeting's over, it's a budget decision, because in the budget, I've funded that position at, I think, 25 hours, and that's yet for you to decide if you want to do that. But if your decision is to go forward, then between town meeting and July 1st, it would become a decision, did the budget pass with those hours in? So again, it's something that can be revisited after town meeting, but between now and town meeting, it's becoming painfully obvious that 19 hours from the administrative coordinator is just frankly not enough. It's just not. There's a lot of, what's happening is every week, it's running 4 or 5 hours over, and then I have to tell Catherine to, can't get paid that, so you gotta roll that into the next week, which means the next week we're starting at only 14 or 15 hours. And this is happening, this is getting worse and worse with each passing week, because and it's all related to the town report, the town meeting. Just an enormous volume of work's got to get pushed out in the next 8 to 10 weeks. So, that is my request.
Bill, any comments?
None yet.
Ed?
Yes, I think it's, I think we're in a better financial position now than we were shortly after Kevin started. He's done a great job. And I see in the budget, as we all noticed, that you'd like to move next year and have the administrative assistant, or whatever you want to call it today, be doing the minutes at the meeting. I think it's beneficial that she be at the meeting and take the minutes, and I see that you have that set up to take effect July 1st.
Yep.
And if you certainly are not paying Kevin to do clerical work where somebody else could be doing it. And I think that we should move ahead and bring her up to the 25 hours until, for a couple of months, until the town meeting. There's a lot of things that aren't getting done. Seems like she's doing a pretty good job, and if you can assist Kevin a little bit more and take some of the workload off of him, I think that'll be a big benefit.
All set?
Hey, for now.
Kathy?
We voted a budget last year that was balanced, and then things changed, people left, we made decisions, then things fell through, then we made other decisions. And at this juncture tonight, at this moment in time, I don't know what money we have or don't have, and I also feel that it sets a precedent when we talk openly with one contractual employee and other contractual employees, we do what we're supposed to do and meet in executive session. So I feel that you need to let town council take a look at this package that was given to us, and I think we need to see where we are expenditure-wise on all of our accounts, and I haven't seen that yet as of now, like how much money is left in the different line items. I don't know. So I guess that's where I am. I'm being really honest with you. I don't know, and I need to know that. I need council to look at this. He's already advised us, contractual employees, you meet with an executive session. That was the advice. I feel like I should follow it. That's why we pay the attorney to look at things like this. And, we're moving forward. We're getting towards town meeting, and we keep revisiting the same issues that I believe will be decided at town meeting, ultimately. So, I guess I'm in favor of letting council take a look at this and give us some input on whether we need to renegotiate the contract, and other than that, I'd like to see how we're doing with this procurement for the treasurer's services. Where's all the money? How much have we spent? Kind of like to see all that. And it's late for me to be deciding all this. I'm not going to make a decision tonight. I need to see this looked at and get some input. And then I'd be prepared to think about that.
Jason?
It's tough to put it off. I don't think it's fair to Kevin. I don't think it's fair to the town. I think it's something we should really consider moving forward with. In terms of Catherine's hours, they definitely should be up. Because when you look at the two positions that made up the full-time position that dissolved when the town had a personnel board, that was the administrative assistant and personnel director, if I'm not mistaken. And I have here a copy of the personnel manual that Joe had made mention of. And I have here a revision of it that's been in the works for 6 months. From June 2018 to December 2018. It hasn't been done.
It was brought to town meeting and
Squashed.
one individual squashed it. Okay, we
What's the
tried.
new one?
Yeah, we'll try again, but it got squashed, yes.
So this is the one that the employee should be getting, is the original one.
Yeah, because the new one got squashed because one person
One
made
person.
Right.
made a
But-
temper tantrum.
Yeah, pretty much.
No lie,
No,
temper tantrum.
not kidding.
Screwed the
This
whole
is-
town hall.
Yep,
Yeah,
Pretty much.
it happens.
yep.
But these things aren't being followed through with, and they haven't been issued to the new employees. So with that big gap that we have in terms of the quantity of staff, I think that helps fill it. Having Catherine here in the meetings, doing the minutes, most of the time that she does the minutes, she's gonna be here in town hall, answering phones, answering emails, and doing other things. And that's what makes it beneficial versus outsourcing it, and makes it more effective. And I think it's extremely important to do. I don't think it's fair to Kevin that he does this work and doesn't get paid. I appreciate the work that he's done. I think he's done a phenomenal job, and I think he should get paid for it. Unfortunately, in terms of what Catherine said about the money, there was no mention in the memo about where the money would come from. But I assume that you would know where the money would come from and how you would be funding.
Yeah, it's fairly simple. My hours in Catherine's don't upset the budget for the finance director. If those were the only hours that we were paying, I mean, you were paying 8 weeks of the work that I'm doing and 5 more hours for Catherine, it would be easily within the budget, because I'm being paid a lot less than what Denise was paid and what was budgeted. And unfortunately, the reality in the budget is we're paying $2,500 a week for the interim treasurer and collector contractor. That is going to require a transfer in order to cover that cost. It's not going to be required to cover our cost. But there's going to have to be a substantial transfer in order to cover that cost without a doubt.
Yeah, we discussed that at the time.
Yeah, yeah, you've already, it's old ground,
Yeah.
you've already been through that when you
Yeah.
authorized the hiring. Cost is gonna be $2,500 times, well, I have a plan that I'm gonna give you by memo, sorry, death by memo, next week or the week after, for how to terminate that contract and move forward with a permanent treasurer collector, because I think there's a way forward to do that now. That will drop that cost very dramatically, because that cost, if you continued it for 20 weeks, was $50,000. So there is no getting around the fact that the current budget is gonna run out of money by big time, but it's not being caused by our hours. It's being caused by that big fat contract. You've also authorized, coming out of the finance department budget, a stipend for the building inspector. You remember that vote. Stipend for the town accountant for doing the CARES work. And we've elevated the treasurer collector clerk to the assistant treasurer collector position. But the clerk's salary is completely available. Nobody's doing that work. So those other draws on that budget too. So the budget's gonna have to get funded. The good news, Ellen and I are working on an analysis of that, all the different departments that are running, it's probably 3 or 4. Town clerk, obviously, finance, might be one other that's borderline, looks like it might run over. Snow and ice is over by, I think, $700 or $800 right now. So we're looking at where we can make transfers from budget surpluses, and we think we've got enough to plug the gap. My goal is to plug those gaps. Remember, you've got the statutory authority effective May 1 with a concurring vote of the fin board to move money from surpluses to where it's in deficit. I'm trying to do that procedure and avoid a special town meeting. And we're close. I talked to Beth about it today, and I said, would you be upset if we avoided a special town meeting? She said, no, that would be fantastic. So the goal is to avoid that. But yeah, this budget's this finance department budget's gonna need help. There's no getting around that reality. But this isn't what's driving it, not by a long shot.
Oh, yeah, no, and I would expect it to need help, but as long as it can be done, then yeah, it's something I would definitely be for.
But I think Kathy's right, that negotiation with your contract has to be done in executive session.
I don't think
Oh,
he
but-
has that authority, available to
Contract
him.
employee.
He's a contract
Yeah.
employee.
No, there's no requirement to do that in executive session. If you wanna have a discussion, decide what you wanna
I'm
do,
just telling you, we've been
And then come-
advised by council.
and
I
then
guess
come-
I'm only-
I'm sorry,
This is not okay. When you tell us, contrary to what our town attorney tells us, and tell us you don't need to listen to the person that gives us our legal
Mr. Chairman,
advice.
Yeah.
with all due respect,
I need to go.
I think I had the floor and I think I was speaking and I
Go
don't
ahead.
appreciate being talked over. So do I have the floor?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. Deciding to change the contract terms does not require an executive session unless you want the opportunity to go in executive session, decide whatever it is you want to decide, and then come back out without me in the room, and then come back out into open session and negotiate with me, or negotiate in executive. I don't see any reason, frankly, for an executive session. This is plain and day. It's simple. I work, and just like the rest of humanity, I get paid for the hours I work. I was happy and privileged to give you 336 hours of free work. I didn't ask for any compensation for that. What I'm telling you is that I cannot, will not, work for free. It's simple. There's no ambiguity here. I won't work for free. Nobody else does either, that I know of. Town of Groveland is not a charity. It's a government. I expect to be paid for the work I do. If you don't want me to do the work that is required to get you ready to finish your budget, to get your town report out, to get your town meeting warrant written, to conduct the town meeting, and do all the things that I put in that memo, negotiate the highway contract, negotiate the water sewer contract, negotiate the police contract, and on and on and on that list goes. If you don't want me to do that, then just say, Kev, we're not gonna change it, it's 19 hours. End of story. And then effective beginning this week, I will spend 19 hours and not a minute more. Period. And you will very, very soon, see the implications of the work that I no longer do, because I've been doing 30 to 40 hours and you've been getting a great deal out of me, and that's great. But I'm not willing to do it anymore. Remember, please, board, that my rate at $55 an hour is already a bargain. It's a non-loaded rate. A comparable loaded rate for an employee with fringe benefits would be closer to $80 or $90 an hour. You're not paying me any of that. So you're getting a heck of a bargain to begin with, and I'm happy to do that. I'm just not happy to keep working for free after I've already done it for 5 months. It's as simple as that.
So I get what you're saying, and I completely understand the number of hours you put in.
Sure.
And back in November, when we talked about 19 hours, and that was agreed upon, that was kind of what we went with, right? And I realize you've been doing more, but this kind of seems like an ultimatum right now.
I don't give ultimatums to boards, and I'm not giving an ultimatum. If you read the memo, there's no ultimatum in there. I'm just saying I'm not gonna work more. Look,
I understand that you have other things you gotta
Let
do,
me
you
make
got
it
another
simple.
job, you got all that other stuff that's going on. It just
I'm
seems
not-
like it's coming out of, now this is it. Instead of like, hey, you know, we're gonna start thinking about this over the last couple meetings, or whatever the time frame was.
you can take all the time you'd like to think about it, that's fine with me, but effective this week, I'm stopping at 19 hours. And the problem with that is, that work that you've got on that piece of paper can't get done in 19 hours. You shouldn't be surprised. The person who used to hold this seat worked a lot more than 19 hours. Now, I may be somewhat pound for pound a little more effective, I don't know, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, based on experience. but I can't do magic. I don't have that ability. And so having me work full-time, replacing somebody who used to work full-time, should not come as a surprise to anybody, particularly what I'm seeing is the requirement of the job is ramping up. And that's coincident with the fact that this gets to be a busier time of year. I've carried you through innumerable crises. The loss of your assistant treasurer, the recap when I got here, that was $1.2 million out of balance. And I got it balanced and I got your tax bills out on time. I got your budget done on time. It's balanced and then some. 2 very bad practices that the town's engaged in, i.e. using one-time revenues to support OPEB and the budget, I will terminate for you. I've done lots of things for you, carried you through some tough times. And I was happy to do that work for free. But it is now obvious to me that the only way forward over the next 8 to 10 weeks is for me to keep doing that kind of work effort. And I'm just not willing to do it. Not unless you pay me. I don't think I'm making an extraordinary request. I mean...
No, you're not making an extraordinary request. It just seems like it's not something that was part of a discussion that was... I would have preferred this to come out maybe 2 meetings ago to say, hey, I want to start talking about this because this is what I'm feeling, and I want to make sure that we have this discussion by the end of March. That's what, that way we had some kind of plan to say, all right, this is what we need to start thinking of. Now it's kind of like, you need to make a decision tonight.
Well, let me tell you something, Mike. I've been giving the board those spreadsheets for a while now.
Yep.
This is not the first time you've seen them. And I frankly hoped, and I frankly thought, the whole purpose of giving you the spreadsheets was to make a point, which is I was giving you a lot of free work. And I frankly hoped that the board would see that and offer something. I thought you'd offer it. I'm uncomfortable in the position you put me in tonight, of having to advocate for myself and to do what I'm doing right now. It's very humbling and it's very unpleasant to me. But the plain fact of the matter is, nobody responded to those spreadsheets and the fact that I was doing that work. Nobody said, Kev, thank you for doing that work. Hey, did you have to work these many hours? I mean, I have to work these many hours. So that's why I'm doing it tonight, Mike, because I've been giving you those things for months. And not once did anybody say, geez, maybe we need to do something here. And I kept expecting you might. Nobody ever did. So I finally said, I'm going to have to raise the issue, because if I don't raise it, nobody else is going to raise it. And I'm just not going to keep working for free. I'm just not doing it. You don't ask anybody else on your staff to do it for free. And it's not right to ask me to work for free either. It's just not right.
Kathy?
A lot has been said tonight, and I'm not going to go into everything, but I remember when the idea was brought up to bring you in, and that you had a lot of experience, and I thought, this is like too good to be true. And I was planning to go to that meeting and just say, no, this isn't going to work. But at the meeting, we talked about critical tasks, and we talked about your background, and you stated that with your background, you should be able to accomplish the critical tasks. I feel like what's happened now is things have morphed into more than the critical tasks, and it's clear you're working more hours. I just don't know that we have going on right now what's going to be good for the town financially and good for us moving forward. And I guess that's something we're going to have to take under consideration. And I did ask why you were giving us those sheets. I did raise it. I did ask, because at that point it wasn't that many hours over the 19, but I was kind of like, wonder why he's giving us these sheets. Because you said, well, I'll do whatever the job takes, but I'll bill you for 19 because I'm retired and I have other jobs and I don't want to work 40 hours a week. I'm getting now that that's changed. Your point of view has changed. I've heard it tonight loud and clear, but it feels kind of like at the last minute, like right when we're getting close to getting things finished, now all of a sudden go to 19. So I guess we have to take it under consideration. Maybe we have to have an executive meeting. That's all I can say at this point. It's like 8:30 at night.
Bill?
I've been up since 5:30.
Yeah, Kevin, I don't think anyone here will argue that you put in more hours than you had originally committed to. I guess my biggest concern right now is you're going to go from a fixed cost to a variable cost. And it's almost going to be like a blank check. We don't know, and you don't either right now, how many hours at the end of the day you're going to bill us for combined. And that's my biggest concern, that I don't know how much money I'm going to spend. You know, when I go to the grocery store, I know what I have in my pocket. I know what I can spend. So if, you know, I stay away from the caviar and I you know, shop in the other aisles. Right now, you've given me a scenario where I don't know, and you can't tell me how much more I'm going to spend on top of the $2,500 a week for the treasurer and some more money for the town accountant, and it puts me in an uncomfortable position, because at the end of the day, I don't know if I can cover the check that you're asking me to write.
I can give you an estimate, Bill. You pay me $1,100 a week now. If I double my work from 19 to 40, if you authorize 40, then you'll pay another $1,100 times 10 weeks. That's the maximum exposure. That's the number.
Is it?
Well, that's the maximum number. Is it less? Maybe.
No.
But it's
Is
not
that the
more.
maximum number? Well, what if it exceeds 40 hours a week? We know Denise was doing more.
I'm not
and-
asking you to exceed 40 hours a week. I already said that. I didn't ask you to exceed 40 hours. That's not what the memo says. The memo says to remove the cap and pay me the hours that I work. I'm sorry, if I didn't say up to 40, that was implicit. I mean, I'm not asking you to pay me for 50 or 60 hours.
Well, I think
Nor-
that was your comment.
More
that
frankly, am I gonna work 50 or 60 hours?
just pay me the hours that I work, which
No.
was kind
This
of
is sim-
open-ended.
This is simple. Look at the spreadsheet. It's obvious, it should be obvious to anybody looking at that spreadsheet, the work that I've done, which is detailed, and the amount of hours it took to do it, that this is not a job that can get done in 20 hours a week. That should be patently obvious. And it will get worse over the next 8 to 10 weeks. That should be patently obvious. What I'm saying to you is, if it's the case that I've been working an average of 29 hours a week, and that's the average, I computed it for you. And if it's the case that the last 2 weeks, I worked 42 hours 2 weeks ago, and I think it was 39 hours last week, it's ramping up, and that's what I'm saying I can't do anymore. I'm not willing to do, because whereas back in November, December, I might have done extra hours because I was getting here and I wanted to get some extra things done for you. What I'm telling you now is it's absolutely imperative that I put those hours in. Who is going to write your town meeting warrant? Me. Who is going to finish balancing this budget? Me. Who's going to do all those other things that are in there? Me. It can't get done in 19 hours. And it's obvious. And all I'm saying to you is, look, you're paying lots of people. You're paying a treasurer collector $2,500 a week. Her hourly rate is $150 an hour. You authorized it. There's a clerk that gets $75 an hour. The clerk gets paid $20 an hour more than I get paid for doing the highest level work that you have available in the town. I'm not asking you for anything extraordinary. $55 an hour is cheap labor for a town administrator with 40 years' experience. All I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, is you know the work takes more. Please pay me for the work I'm doing for you. If you want to put a cap on it, 30 hours, 35 hours, whatever cap you want to put on it, that's fine. I'll live with it. But 20, I'm not willing to live with, because it's taking grotesque advantage of my good nature. And it's not right. Plain and simple. That's not right. I've been doing it for 5 months, and I'm telling you, it isn't fair. And all I asked you, go back and play the tape when you interviewed me last November. I said one thing to you when you said to me, how much do you want to get paid? I said, 1 week after I get into the position, I'll know the budget better than you will. Please be fair to me. You remember those words? That's all I said, was please be fair. I'm only asking you to be fair now. By the way, well, I'm done. I mean, I've made my case clear. If the board doesn't wanna do this, then that's your decision. I understand, that's your decision. But I certainly have to advocate for myself because no one else is gonna advocate for me. And I'm just asking you to pay me for the hours I work. If you wanna set conditions on documentation to prove I'm doing the work, you wanna, I mean, my God, I'm giving you pretty detailed documentation now, but if you want something different, I'm happy to do it. If you wanna put a cap other than 19, put a cap on it. I don't care. I'm not gonna take your health insurance, don't worry about that. I'm a 48, Chapter 41, 108N contract employee. I can't take your health insurance. It says so in the contract. That's what 48, 108N lets you do. So there's no fringe benefits here. I just want to get paid my hourly rate times the hours I'm working for something more than 19. Because I gotta work it. If you want, look, I'm telling you, if I stop at 19 this week and next week, you're gonna start noticing it right away. Because I'm gonna start, this is probably what, an 8, 10, 11 hour day? I got 7 hours left, 8 hours left. I'm gonna burn that up in the next 48 hours. But Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'll still be getting emails and people asking me to do things. You know that's the case. And I won't respond to them. I'm not. If you decide consciously that you're gonna let this situation stay it the way it is, then I hit 19 and I'm done. It's not fair to expect me to do something different.
Ed?
When we first hired Kevin, I expected him to come back. I thought one of the charges was, let us know how many hours this job is going to take. And I think we're getting a bargain with Kevin. I think we're getting a bargain with Catherine. And if you look at I think in some of our union contracts, if an employee doesn't take health insurance, they're paid more money. We got to be careful. We may lose this guy, and he's very dedicated. He's telling us that he doesn't have enough hours to complete the job that we want him to do, and he should be compensated. He needs to be compensated for the time he puts in. I have no complaints with the job he's doing. He's doing a fantastic job. And he should be paid for it, and give him the common courtesy of letting Catherine do some of his work. You don't want to pay him, Kevin, to do clerical work. You got a person that can do that at less money, and it's really an insult for the both of them that they're not being compensated properly. It's an embarrassment to the Board of Selectmen that they don't support these two people. And if we're not careful, we're gonna lose both of them.
If I could, Mike. I'm not embarrassed by anything.
Are you done, Ed?
For now, if I need to rebut, I will.
Kathy?
I'm not embarrassed by anything. We've met with you, Kevin, and you said with your experience, you could do the critical tasks in 19 hours. I understand where you are now. I understand what's happened. But I also understand that we haven't seen where the budget is now. And I know that we are spending a lot more money right now than we spent when Denise was here. We've contracted out the whole treasury function at $2,500 a week. Okay, we've hired you, we've brought Catherine on more hours than she was before. I don't know, I mean, there's not an endless supply of money, and I'm not comfortable making these decisions like this in open session. You're a contract employee. We should be in executive session like every other contract employee. That's only fair. That's how we do those. I don't know why we're doing it this way and going on towards 9 at night over the same things over and over.
The option to go into executive session to discuss, to have contract negotiations is at the option of the person contracted with.
I was just going to say
I'm
that.
telling you, I don't want
Incorrect.
to go into executive session.
No,
There's no need for executive
our
session.
town attorney told
We
us.
have granted that on the request of the persons whose contract we are talking about. Denise actually did that in one of the meetings. He said, yeah, it's fine, we can talk about it here.
But we also have to be willing to say, fine. Our attorney told us that. we got that advice, we should listen to it.
What does it matter if the subject says it's fine? Why would we
Well,
decide that we
because
want
I'm
to?
not, I mean, it's
There's
quarter
no
of
time
9.
limit on the meetings, Kathy.
There
The
is
work,
for me.
you can leave.
I'm going to.
Okay, leave. I mean, we have work to do, just like Kevin
Go
said.
ahead,
We
do
all
the
have
work.
work to do, and the work is done when the work is done. It doesn't say it ends at 8:30 because we're tired. I'm tired. I've been up since 4:30.
Right, but we got this
I'm still
information.
talking, Kathy. So, the work is still ahead of us. We still have a discussion here, which is still ongoing. If you don't want to take part, that's fine. I understand. I'm tired too, but we're not leaving until the work is done because we still have more items on the agenda. Ed, did you have anything else?
No.
Bill?
No, not on the subject matter, no.
So I don't disagree, Kevin, that you've been working, and I've actually, I think, responded to many of your emails saying thank you for the work that you're doing, and acknowledge that while others may criticize some of the emails that you're sending out, that I respond and say, I realize you're doing more. So I'm not
I saw that, and thank you.
ignorant to that. I find it, I don't know that we can actually make a decision on this tonight. I don't know if we have the ability to vote on something like this tonight. I do think we need to have a meeting, whether it's executive or some other special meeting later this week, to actually have time to coordinate ourselves and then vote on this. Jason, what do you think?
I don't.
It's not an agenda item, so it's not like, I guess the discussion is an agenda item, but what came out of it's not an agenda item.
Well, it's a listed agenda item. You're free to take whatever action you want.
Jason?
Yeah, like I said, I think certain assumptions are made when you take a job. One is when you first start working, you're gonna do an extraordinary more hours as you learn the position. And then the hours are gonna trail down. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with the support staff that you have in the store or in the government here when you come in. And I don't think we've had that support staff. And so I think that's one of the reasons why the hours that Kevin's put in has just stayed this level and only getting higher, especially as things ramp up and get more intense because of the meeting and warrants and all that. And I think it's important that these get done, and I think it's only fair that he gets paid for the work. If the money's available, like Kevin says it is, I think we should move forward and just make it happen. I think we should do the same for Catherine.
Ed? Okay. Bill?
Said all I'm gonna say on this topic.
Ed, anything else?
No. Jason, you want to put that in a form of motion?
I'll make a motion to pay Kevin for the hours that he works, up to 40 hours. And I'll also include in that motion to increase Catherine's hours to 25 hours.
Until town meeting, until June 1st? What, did you say town meeting, Kevin? I'm sorry.
Town meeting.
Which is end of May, say the end of May. May 31st.
I'll
So
second
May
that.
31st.
Look, if this makes it easier for you, let me suggest that you take the cap up to 30 hours for my pay. That means there's some residual in the budget in order to increase Catherine's hours, those 6. And don't bring mine to 40. If I work past 30, if I determine it's required and I need to do it, I'll do it, and you won't hear me complaining about it between now and town meeting. I'm not trying to be unreasonable with you, and I'm not trying to demand anything from you. I'm just trying to get the board to understand that there's a body of work that's gotta get done. If I'm gonna do it for you, I need to be paid. So if I go over 30 hours, it's on me. Take the extra money that you would have spent for the 10, if you were of a mind to pass Jason's motion, and let that be the money that you allow the administrative coordinator to increase 6 hours. I can't be more reasonable than that, folks. I just can't.
You want to rescind your motion?
I will amend the motion to
Wait.
move,
Can you rescind it first? Because I do have
I'll- or just kind of.
just say you remove or withdraw,
I
sorry.
withdraw my motion.
No, thank you. I don't know if I can ask this or not. Outside of the 30 hours, at least the 5 or 6 hours going to Catherine. Like, the sticking point was always the benefits, right? You're not gonna take the benefits because of your stature.
Right.
I don't believe anybody else is going to take the benefits either, but.
There's a simple solution. This is so easy. Catherine has told you that she doesn't need the health insurance, and any other benefits are de minimis, they're nothing. It's 1.45% paid for the FICA. If for some reason, and not just, I don't want to focus on an individual employee, but if any employee were to tell you that if they went past 19 hours and they weren't going to take benefits and you therefore authorized the extra time and then they took the benefit, reduce the hours, bang, done, and the eligibility is gone. It's as simple as that. That's how easy it is. If somebody misrepresents to you what they would do, then you reduce the hours. Opportunity over. That's how you deal with that. I've done it myself because I've had employees once in a blue moon who said one thing and did another. And so I just dropped the hours back to 19 and said, you're not eligible anymore. Simple as that. So, yeah, I don't think you need to worry about that. You're dealing with two honest people.
As I said many times, it's always the bottom line of the budget, right? The budget's gotta be balanced.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, you wanna take another stab at it?
I'll make a motion that we remove the 19-hour cap from Kevin and make it 30 hours and until town meeting. And I would also make the motion to increase Catherine's hours to 25 hours through town meeting.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Kathy?
I just don't know whenever we made decisions like this, and again, I hate to bring back Denise, but Denise used to always come in and give us a spreadsheet that would show us where the money was coming from, how we were gonna pay for it, and I don't see that here tonight. And I have a severe problem with voting things. It's not that I don't trust you, Kevin. It's not that at all. I know you might have your own thoughts on that. It's that I feel my responsibility is I'm the double check. I'm the check and balance here. That's what I'm elected to do. I don't have that information tonight. I can't vote.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question? Kathy,
Yes.
when I came to you folks 6 weeks ago and said I wanted authority to hire a interim treasurer collector for $2,500 a week, you did not ask me what the cost of that would be and how we'd afford it and for an analysis. Tonight I come to you and I ask you for
Yes,
the
I
hours
did.
for
The
me and for
procurement, I didn't
Catherine.
even vote for that.
For me and for Catherine, and you
No,
want an
but you're
analysis done.
misrepresenting my vote.
With all due respect,
With
if
all
it
due
wasn't
respect.
important to the tune of $2,500 a week, I don't suddenly see why it's
Oh,
a different
I
issue
feel like you're
when it's
being
far less money.
disrespectful to me right now. When that vote came up, I again said I didn't see where the money was coming from. I did not vote for that. I did not vote for the procuring of the treasurer. I wanted us to hire an assistant treasurer for the position that had been voted at town meeting.
My question is asked and answered, thank you.
Bill?
I don't appreciate that.
I just feel that, personally, I've been put into a spot where I feel like I have a gun to my head, and I don't typically respond well to that. I typically like time to think things through, and 15 minutes is just not time enough for me to think anything through to its logical conclusion. And that's my only comment.
Let's take a vote then. Ed?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Bill?
No.
Kathy?
No.
I say yes.
Thank you. I
I think it needs
appreciate
to be
your,
done.
your
And I think
support.
that was a good negotiating point to go down to 30 and adjust Kathy.
Thank you.
So let's see what happens.
Again, please understand, I really am trying to help the town. there's reasonable limits, and I appreciate compromise. It's the art of politics. I'm glad that that was helpful.
Like I said, and we can move on and try and get through the rest of this. I acknowledged your hours months and months ago, and continually have done that. Privately, I probably should have done it more publicly.
You did, Mr. Chairman, and if I did not say thank you, thank you.
No, I wasn't looking for a thank you, but
No.
I did acknowledge it, so.
What's due is due.
So I'm going to assume there's no financial director's time right now. We can wait on that.
No, I know you're all gonna be crushed to hear that I have nothing to offer you except 57,000
gonna
more memos next week,
I'm gonna
probably.
jump to the other items not reasonably anticipated and go over the cable purchase. So we have a submission from the cable department looking to upgrade equipment at Bagnell for town meeting, whether it's, I guess we already voted for the 24th, so there's a,
The way the Warrant article is written at town meeting, it sets up the PEG cable access. It's a special kind of revolving account under 53, 41, 53, it doesn't matter. The important thing is, the expenses are authorized, but under the direction of the Board of Selectmen. So you actually arguably have to vote an unusual expense like this. The day-to-day stuff is all kind of just done, it's in the warrant. But an expense like this, arguably, the board has to do it. Ellen brought it to my attention as town accountant, she's uncomfortable just authorizing it. And so I think this is something you've already looked at and said okay on, but it really, Ellen would be more comfortable with a formal vote of the board. And the spec sheet is in front of you. It will come out of the cable access revenue. You've got plenty of money in there. And this is in order to be able to set up the room at Bagnell where you have the town meeting with full electronic capabilities like you've got here. People want to zoom in, they'll be able to zoom in and that sort of thing.
so I think we all know it's necessary based on what happened at the last town meeting, which audibly was a disaster. So someone want to make a motion on approving the cable committee budget request of $11,540?
Yeah, I'll make that motion, approve the cable request, 11,540.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Fantastic. Real quickly on selectmen time, I only have one thing. It has to do with the Comcast contract. I did talk with Bill Hewig. The person, Kathy, that was on vacation and had emergencies and was away, and he's connecting with her this week. We should have an update back from him, if not by Friday, then by early next week on what the final contract looks like. So, Bill, I know you keep asking about that, so we should have an answer definitely before the end of March. Ed, anything for selectmen time?
No.
Bill?
No, not at this time.
Kathy?
No?
Jason? No. Correspondence, Mass DOT, Chapter 90, fiscal year 21, KP Law fee increase, resignation of electrical inspector Zavin Gostinani, effective 3/11/2021.
Estonian.
Gostinani.
The
Fantastic.
chapter 90 notice you got there goes into a warrant article.
Yep.
Appropriation, and the KP Law fee increase. Because of that, I'm gonna increase the law budget, because that fee increase got announced after we'd already set the budget, and I'd cut it a little bit because the bills have been running behind. I'm gonna go back in and do it, and guess what I'll send you? A memo.
Memo. Great. Can we get a motion to adjourn at 8:54?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?